ladies and gentlemen, welcome once again. I had the thumbnail up for just a second there, but we're good. Welcome to the NASCAR Weekly Podcast. We are here on my channel this week. We have a very full, a very jam-packed show planned for all of you. I'm here joined, as always, by the Iceberg. Where's he? Is it this side? Yes, the Iceberg, Jarrett Lumberg.
Here.
We have Danny B Talks, and this week we are joined here to start the show by Xfinity Series driver Robby Lyons. Robby, thank you for calling in.
No, thank you guys for having me. I've been a fan for a long time, so I appreciate it and excited to be a part of it.
Yeah, I know the chat's very excited as well. Well, yeah, we appreciate you coming on the show tonight. Talk to us a little bit about this season. It's certainly been an unconventional season. I know right out the gates you made some starts at the beginning of this season for JD Motorsports, and you recently made another start. What's this season been like for you? How topsy-turvy has it been?
I'll tell you, it's definitely been unconventional. The way it was gonna start was kind of gonna be like every season had for me, where we kind of front load the season and get a lot of races out of the way early. But and then, it was all about piecing things together throughout the year and seeing what we could do leading up to the end of the year. And so the pandemic kind of putting everything on pause gave me time to sort of piece things together and get more stuff lined up, for when things started back going again. So if anything, to me, it was like, I picked up right where we left off. So it's been nice. I think we're on track to run the most races I have in my career in NASCAR across the Truck Series and the Xfinity Series. So we had some other plans beginning of the year. I really want to try to work towards getting up to the Cup Series eventually. But the lack of practice and all the financial situations that a lot of race teams are in right now, it's made it pretty difficult. So just making starts where I can and getting the most seat time and experience given the situation.
Robby,
go ahead.
Go ahead, Robby. I thought you was done. Sorry.
No, I was just say it's helped when we've run the truck stuff. I own a portion of the equipment that we've been using, so the double header, with the lack of practice, we've really been able to save money on tires, and that's one of the biggest expenses, as you all know. And so it's been a blessing and a curse, I guess, when it comes to seat time, but it's worked out well so far.
That seems like you're making the most of everything you're getting, so you can't fault the guy for doing that. Robby, I wanted to ask you, I saw something on Facebook from you, I think it's back towards the end of last month. You got the race against, you said, one of your childhood heroes, Travis Pastrana. So tell me about that. How was that?
Yeah, man, it was being the doubleheader. I had raced at Kansas before with Premium Motorsports in 2018, and we had a splitter issue in qualifying. The splitter fell off, and we welded that back together and had a tight truck all race. So I wouldn't call it a whole lot of preparation leading into I guess, is it last weekend? Well, not last weekend, the weekend before last time Trucks and Xfinity were on track. But so I was excited that I got a little more track time before Travis did, and obviously he's been out of the seat for a long time. I would say there's few people in life that I get starstruck around, but one being Tony Stewart, who's one of my all-time heroes, and then somebody like Travis or Ricky Carmichael, people that I've looked up to since I was a little kid. So being that he started at the back, like his truck was lined up behind me. So I remember looking down pit road. I'm like, wait, like, is he behind me? Like I kept looking over my shoulder, like, is that really him sitting there? But as the race went on, we got to race around each other quite a bit. There was a point, I think he had a right rear tire go down in front of me, and he was swatting flies on the steering wheel, left, right. I'm like, this dude's a maniac. And sure enough, I think it was the next restart after that, when he got spun. I got a nice little yeet into the pileup.
Just a little.
And so I definitely took that bumper off, and we're going to save it. I could send it out to get him to sign it. Who knows? Nice. But it was really, really cool. And after the race, I went over to his truck, social distancing. We're not really allowed to get up super close with each other and talk, but I said, man, your nose looks a lot better than my tail does. And he's like, oh man, was that me? I'm so sorry. Like I was like, no, man, it's a badge of honor. Like it was fun racing with you. And gave me a fist bump and the old TP thumbs up. It was really cool. Something I'll never forget.
That's awesome.
Robby,
awesome.
you talked a bit about it earlier, but I kind of want to ask, just from a driver's perspective, what would you want going forward, like with doubleheaders, midweek races? Are you like pro doubleheader midweek races or like anti doubleheader midweek races kind of thing with scheduling?
I can't really speak for the midweek racing standpoint. I guess if we go back to the midweek stuff, the last time I really did that was summer shootout at Charlotte, and I'm not sure if any of y'all have ever had a chance to get down there for it, but when fans are allowed, they will pack the stands of that place. I mean, you'd almost think it's the crowd for a truck race at Charlotte, that so many people show up for the legend car races. So I think the midweek races for the truck series, the Xfinity series, would be huge. The Cup series, I think it was great for the All-Star race, and if we could throw some more exhibition races in there next year, I mean, I think there's a whole lot of opportunities, and especially once we get towards the new car and the new facilities that it could race on potentially, who knows? Places like Bowman Gray, stuff like that, they're all about the show. So I think something like that would be great for midweek racing. But the double headers, 100%, 150%, I'm in favor of. It's you get twice the racing, twice the payout for traveling up there once, and you only have to travel all your guys up there, fly them up there once, and especially if they're in conjunction with the Cup races, your pit crew and all that, they're already in town, so it's a huge cost savings, and you get to watch 2 races. So what's more fun than that?
Too much.
More bang for your buck. It's a shame we haven't had fans out at the stands or out in the races as much, but I'm sure that would be that's going to be a huge hit if and when that becomes more commonplace in NASCAR. I want to ask you a little bit about your season specifically, Robby, because you've made some Truck Series starts for one, but you've also made some Xfinity starts. Which series do you think you've learned more from this year, and kind of which style of driving do you feel like suits you better?
So I will say my first Xfinity start was at Homestead. It's probably one of the tracks that I had the most laps at. It was for Mike Harmon in the 17, and that race, I guess, kind of prepared me for what this season was going to be. With I think they got one practice in, and I was getting my belts all adjusted, and then it rained, so I had to qualify. My first laps in an Xfinity car at all was at Homestead in qualifying, and we had one lap to get in the race. And so that whole race was spent just staying out of the way of the championship contenders and not wanting to get myself talked about whatsoever and get approved for Daytona. But when it came around to Las Vegas and Fontana, that was the first time it actually felt a loose race car on a 1.5-mile track and or 2-mile track like Fontana. The trucks just have so much downforce and side force that it's really, really, really hard to get one loose or sideways or spin one out. But the Xfinity cars, and I'm sure as you guys have seen all year, the racing's just been phenomenal with the low downforce package and the high horsepower. So I would say that those fit my driving style more. At least they're more fun to drive. Stepping back down to the truck series has, the trucks almost feel like you're in slow motion compared to the Xfinity car. But clearly, as Kansas would show, I spun out on Friday, so clearly it is possible to spin one out still.
Robby, with you where you're at in life, who would you say has been the most influential person for you to get to where you're at in your racing career right now?
So I'll try to make this long story short, but so 2013, I was down in Homestead. Me and my family have been going there every year since 1999. The old Pennzoil 400, I think it was back then. And my buddy worked at the Biltmore Country Club in Clearwater, and he was Eddie Sharp Sr.'s golf caddy at the country club there. And that was the race that Cale Gale beat Kyle Busch to the line. I think, or was that 2013 or 2012?
I think it was 2013.
It was one of those years.
It was like right at the end of that last generation of truck that they had before we went to what we have now.
Yep, you're right. But anyway, when Cale won that race, we had these post-race passes where you got to walk down on the front straightaway and kind of celebrate with the champion. I don't remember who the champion was that year, but I remember Cale won the race, and we kind of inadvertently ended up in the driver's RV lot that night. I had rarely had pit passes or anything. We found Eddie and Cale and everybody with the Eddie Sharp Racing team celebrating the win, and I got to know Justin Lofton. We struck up a conversation about off-road racing. Obviously, my background's at that point was in motocross, so we hit it off and struck up a friendship. And I believe it was 2013 at Talladega when he broke his thumb. He missed Martinsville. Daniel Hemrick made his Truck Series debut that weekend, and Justin invited me to come up and spend the weekend in his house with him. And he introduced me to a lot of people, and I would say that was the spark that lit the fire to get me to where I am today. So can't thank Justin enough for all that he did for me. So I would say he's definitely the person that got me to where I am the most.
So, Robby, last question before we let the fans have at it here. I want to ask you, though, sort of as a fan, what's your favorite moment can be NASCAR, motorsports in general, just as a fan? Just is it your moments in the car, or is there like a specific race? Like I kind of want to know this. I'm very curious here.
Yeah. So thinking back to it, having gone to Daytona every year since the fall of '98, I think we were talking about this before we got on air, but the Pepsi 400 that year that was delayed because of the forest fires. Daytona is probably, my holy grail. That place is so special to me and my family both. But I would say the most excited I've ever been as a fan was the 07 500 with Mark Martin and Kevin Harvick coming to the finish there. I specifically remember standing up on my chair, jumping up and down, like screaming, and I think I even bent the seat. I had cheering for Mark, and gosh, that was so disappointing because I think everybody was pulling for Mark, being the sentimental favorite there. And then I would say the 08 500, being a Tony Stewart fan,
Oh, yeah.
I say these are the most exciting moments, but they're also the moments where my drivers lost on the last lap of Daytona. But, those two stand out as fans. And then as a driver, Talladega 2018, I think we lined up third on the restart with 10 laps to go. And coming off of turn 2, David Gilliland and Grant Enfinger got together off of turn 2, and I saw nothing but clear racetrack for the first time in my NASCAR career. And I was like, we're going to take the lead at Talladega. And then Timothy Gilliland came back down, and I kind of got forced below the yellow and had to back out of it there. But those are definitely the moments that stand out the most for me.
Certainly some awesome ones. Well, we appreciate you answering those, Robby. We do have a few fan questions that I want to get to. So thank you everyone watching. We have over 330 people watching live right now. Thank you all for sending in questions. This question I saw from several people, worded slightly differently each time, but I guess I'll ask it in this way. Who is your favorite? It can be NASCAR driver, it can be driver in general. You've name dropped a few already, but who is your favorite or some of your favorite drivers that you looked up to when you were younger?
Yeah, so when I was younger, I would say I was the biggest Bobby Labonte fan first, back when he was driving for Gibbs. It's a funny story. I remember one of the Daytona 500s we went to, and I got my first diecast car that I wanted a Bobby Labonte car. So we went down to the merchandise trailers. We were sitting on the backstretch at Daytona back then, and when I got back up to my seat, I looked in my bag, and it was a Terry Labonte diecast, and I was so disappointed. I was like, I wanted a Bobby Labonte car. But definitely Bobby Labonte. And then when he kind of started wrapping his career up, I ventured more towards Tony, and I say that also kind of went with me in my racing as I started to get older and I got more aggressive. I kind of related to Tony's driving style more, and just the kind of rebel personality that he was. And ever since then, just everything that he's been through in life and has definitely been inspiring to me. So it's ironic that they were teammates, for the longest time as well. And then coming from motocross, Ricky Carmichael was one of my heroes. I was thankful that my father being in construction and Ricky's father being a plumber, they got to know each other through a family friend, and I got to know Ricky from when I was younger and kind of follow him up and idolize him, as well as Tim Ferry. He's not as much of a household name if you didn't follow Supercross and motocross, but he was a local guy from around Largo, Florida, where I grew up, Clearwater, Tampa, St. Pete, and he was one of my idols as well. I looked up to him a lot. So that was where I got the number 15 from, was Timmy, and that was my number racing motocross for all those years. And it was really cool to make my NASCAR debut in the 15 car as well, and still in Xfinity now. So it's been really cool.
That's awesome. Yeah. So we had another comment or another question. This one's from Sky_Jello. He asked, what's your favorite stock car paint scheme that you have ever driven?
That's a tough one. My stock car career's kind of been short. But I would say my original scheme that I ran in late models, it was kind of like my truck series scheme that I made my debut in the 49 truck for premium and the 15 for premium. But the same race at Talladega in 2018, it wasn't so much the scheme as much as it was the name rail. I had to run my grandmother's name on there, and then my buddy Gavin Jones, his mother's name on there. They're both breast cancer survivors, so that was special to me to be able to run those.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome. I see Michael Klein in the chat says the white Sunwest car is fire. So you have a few options to choose from, it sounds like, but that sounds really cool.
Yeah, I never thought I'd run a green race car, but a couple weekends ago at Kansas, we ran a green truck, and I got a lot of positive feedback from that. A lot of people like that. It stood out.
Yeah, we like cars. I know I personally like cars that stand out, that you can see from, when you're in the stands at Daytona and you're trying to pick them out across the backstretch. It's nice when they stick out in the crowd, for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, well, I think that's good. Do it for fan questions. Thank you all for sending in your questions, and thank you, Robby Lyons, for being on the start of the show here. Before we let you go, where can people find you on social media? I think I have your Twitter handle, I believe, in the description. But where else can people find you?
Yeah, so everywhere I'm at RL Racing 2, and then on Facebook you can just like my page. It's Robby Lyons. Keep it pretty simple there, so easy to find, easy to follow, and appreciate it. Thank you guys for having me.
Yeah, thank you for being on. Yeah, for
Thank
sure.
you.
We'll have to do this again.
Have a good rest
sometime.
of the show.
Yeah, thanks, man. Yeah, take care.
Take care,
You too.
Robby.
Thank you, man.
Thank you, guys.
All right. So, yes, we have our other guests. I believe, yes, Jeff Gluck is supposed to be on a little bit later in the show. We also have Ian O'Brien, who will be appearing later on. But while we have a brief break in the action, I want to say thank you to everyone watching at home. And be sure to lick that like button. We only have about half as many likes as we have people watching. A few people in the comments were asking where Darian is. Darian, unfortunately, had something come up kind of very last minute, so he will not be on the show tonight, unfortunately. But we're looking forward to hopefully having him back next week very soon. But yeah, I guess to start with, guys, unless either of y'all have anything you want to chime in with, do we just want to get into New Hampshire from this past weekend? Talk about the Cup race a little bit?
Yeah.
Yeah. And right as we say that, here comes one of our guests right now, Brian.
All right, perfect. We can join him in on this conversation.
All right. Close it out. How's it going, man? Oh, wait, the audio's still going. Crap.
Yeah.
I always forget that part.
Hey, what's up, guys?
There we go.
How's it
You
going,
got
man?
us?
Yeah, I got you. Can you guys hear me over here?
Yeah,
Yes.
we hear you.
Yeah, we got you, man.
Okay, I just had to make sure that was coming in good. I mean,
It's a
I only
Zoom
did this
deal, man.
Yeah, I know. I only did this one time over here, and that was with Darian. You know what I mean? Hey, I'm more of the Skype guy. Call me old school, even though I'm 21, but still.
Well, we're a racing show, so we thought Zoom, it sounded fast. We were early
Yeah.
adopters to the Zoom thing, but yeah, people figured out. Robbie had some issues with it as well. It's not as easy as people make it out to be. But well,
I know,
welcome
I'm
to
not
the
used to it yet.
yeah, welcome to the show. We're just getting started. I mean, we're live right now, in case you guys didn't know. But we're just getting started talking about New Hampshire. So you jumped in at like the perfect time.
Yeah, I really did.
I kind of want to start with you. I kind of want to start with you, man. So, what do you think of New Hampshire this weekend? The Cup race, the low downforce package this weekend, the battle with Keselowski. What, just in a nutshell, what was your take on this weekend's race?
I would say the first like 200 some laps, like 230 some laps, really exciting. Now, of course, it was basically, Keselowski, Hamlin, all those guys battling. That was basically the whole race. But then, like you saw that whole pack and stuff like that. I mean, they were just going at it. Eric, I feel bad for your driver, Matt Kenseth, first of all, man.
Dang.
The stuff that he's going through this week. New crew chief and all, Chad Johnson's out there. It's tough for you guys. But hey, as a Hendrick fan, it's probably tough for me too and stuff like that. I mean, where are my cars right now?
Yeah.
But I mean, looking at that race, you could tell once Keselowski won that, they were going to extend his contract for sure. That was like basically, I would say, like the nail in the coffin that they're going to extend his contract. We're going to keep you for you're probably going to be our franchise driver over here. Now, the next, I would say like 60 laps or so, well, a lot of C's. Let me just say that right now, a lot of C's. I was kind of snoozing a bit, not going to lie, because Keselowski just pulled away and that was it. But pretty much, exciting race. You have your groovy gauge. You guys, I know, rate the races and all that. I'd probably say about 70 or so average, like a little bit above average, be fair.
That's what I give it, a 7 to 8 range. I think that's pretty accurate. You kind of summed up my thoughts perfectly. Yeah, I was bummed. Matt Kenseth, one of his worst races probably of his whole career, quite honestly. It was a tough one to watch. But I agree with you. I think the first 2/3 of the race were really action-packed. I think it was even in stage 1, you had Keselowski, Blaney, and Hamlin, basically all three of them trading the lead back and forth, leaning on each other. Later in the race, you had Hamlin on the radio. Man, this is awesome racing. Like, yeah, first 200 laps, sure, it was only one or two guys really out front the whole time, but you really never knew who had the fastest car. And the action throughout the pack was pretty interesting as well. So, the final long green flag run, you were hoping fuel mileage might come into play there and shake things up a little bit, but it never quite did. So, yeah, it kind of ended anticlimactically. But the first 2/3 of the race was some of the best New Hampshire racing I've seen in a while. What do you think, Jared? What do you think of this weekend's race?
I'd say I agree, and I'm surprised that like all three of us right off the bat are just like 7 out of 10. Basically, that's where I had it. And it was funny that you said that like we are kind of hoping for fuel mileage to come into it, because it seemed really like NBC was hoping for fuel mileage to come into play.
Anything
the
to
way
keep
that
us
they were
watching.
hyping it.
They had to.
Oh my gosh! But I mean, the first, I'd say about 70% of that race, it was pretty action packed. I really think that until that last green flag run, and I put it on Twitter and I got a lot of heat for it, but I'm like, you really didn't know who was going to win this race. You knew it was going to be probably one of those two, but the way that people were using pit strategy, if there was a caution at the end, there's a lot of people that were using a lot of different strategies. You didn't really know still. And it felt like an old COT New Hampshire race, because those races at New Hampshire from like 2007 to about 2012 were all pretty good races when you go back and watch them. And this is what it felt like. Overall, I'd say start to finish, this was probably my favorite New Hampshire race of the Gen 6 era. I know a 7 out of 10 isn't really saying much for New Hampshire, but compared to the races that they've had the last couple years outside of finishes, I really enjoyed this one over those.
Yeah, I think flag to flag, this one was definitely a more entertaining race. Just that first battle in stage 1 was just impressive. You could throw a blanket over the three guys fighting for the lead, and that's the kind of style of racing that people want to see NASCAR be consistently. You just can't always get the results.
Yeah, and even that last stage where it did kind of get strung out, not a whole lot of challengers at the very front of the field, at least you had Kevin Harvick kind of on that alternative strategy like Jared was talking about, coming from like 15th, 20th in the pack all the way back up to, 5th, I guess is where he ended up. At least you had that, and you had some doubt in the back of your mind as if the leaders run out of fuel, because we have seen fuel mileage races at New Hampshire. Was it, I think 2015, I believe, was a fuel mileage race that came into play, and like some of the leaders ran out towards the end. So not entirely entirely out of the question, even though being a shorter track, I'm not going to call it a short track necessarily, but a shorter track, you can usually save fuel more frequently, but it only creates some good drama. But it sounds like we're all pretty much in agreement. This is kind of a boring start to the show. We're all agreeing entirely that, the race was pretty good for New Hampshire.
Hey, what's wrong with 7 out of 10s now?
Yeah,
Come on.
It sucked. It sucked. We need someone to disagree. I'm reverting to 2018 form.
It's funny. I'm going to call out what I saw on Twitter last week from someone. I can't remember who it was. They tweeted at all of us and they said, "Do you guys even like NASCAR? You guys are just being so negative." And now look at us. We all said it was a good race.
Yeah.
Yeah, 7 out of 10 is not bad. Come on now, guys.
No.
I mean, look, not every race is going to be a 10.
No.
And compared to the way that some NASCAR summers can be, where it just is just a slog from like late May till August. Like,
yeah, there are certain periods where it's like we're just trying to get through to the playoffs.
Yeah.
But now it's crazy thing. Oh my gosh, this is the last month. This is the last bit of racing before we're there.
Yeah. I was still hoping that there would be a caution with 2 to go there. I was hoping that they would throw out that caution, and they didn't. I was disappointed because I just wanted to see another restart happen.
They had that one deal with like 30 laps to go. I think Bell cut a tire down, and that was their one chance they could have maybe had an excuse like, there's no smoke out there, there's some sparks on the track. But no, they let that one slide. But at the end of the day, the fastest car and driver won, so I can't be too mad about that. I like chaotic finishes, but I also hate to see like the best teams get totally screwed at the end like that. But
without doubt.
Yes. I mean, yeah, it's like as much as I would have liked a good finish, I'm glad they didn't throw BS debris caution at the end, and then for I don't know, a water bottle cap or something. Like, as much as it was kind of like we said anticlimactic, it's still they let the race play out naturally in that final run. They didn't try and manipulate anything. They probably should have thrown a caution for the Bell incident, or the flat tires and stuff, but. Nobody had really a problem afterwards. So at the end of the day, it was the right call. But yeah, I mean, there's not really much to say. Like, it wasn't a race in any way that we're going to be like 10 years from now. Man, do you remember the 2020 New Hampshire race? What a banger that one was.
Yeah.
Greatest race of all time. Send it home.
What I hate though is like, there's someone like, and this is something we talked about before, but there's going to be so many fans calling this a bad race. And then they'll say last year's race was like one of the best races ever because the finish was good. Whereas like, it's like these 2 races, in my opinion, are like inverted on each other from like compared to each other. Like last year's race started in my opinion, started not too good and finished well. Whereas like this race is like really, really good. And then just was like boring as hell.
It just lagged a bit to the end. It happens sometimes. And the best car wins though in the end. Can't do anything about that.
Yeah. It's crazy because these are 2 different years, 2 slightly different dates, 2 completely different rules packages. And I think at the end of the day, people are coming out of both races thinking there's some good stuff, there's some bad stuff. I think it is wild. I think New Hampshire is a very unpredictable track. I think adding the PJ1 improved the racing in some ways. I think it also randomized the racing in some ways, which I think whether fans will admit it or not, I think they do like that a little bit. So really quick, we'll still have more to talk about with New Hampshire here. I want to get to a little bit more, but I do want to address a few super chats we got out the gates here. Thank you, Nicholas Gray, for the $10. That's incredible. A, do y'all think William Byron was ready for Cup even though he won an Xfinity championship? And B, does he have a future at Hendrick Motorsports? I think Byron's definitely got a future. I think he was really young when he got to Cup, but I think kind of that's how the cards fell his way with Casey Kane kind of being moved out of that situation. So, I mean, you learn by doing, I suppose. But what do you guys think?
Probably one more year, I think an Xfinity would have served him pretty well.
Yeah.
I would definitely think so too. But I mean, again, he came in here young, and let's be honest, he's doing a better job than what he did his rookie year. I mean, what was he in his rookie year? What, 25th in points, something like that, like 20th in points somewhere.
Yeah, he's certainly improved.
And he's in the playoffs now. So apparently, of course, Jack announces a big part of that. They just need the win. That's really all they need to do.
Pretty much. Irvin Alvarado also sent $10. Thank you. New Hampshire this Sunday was a magical race with good battles with Hamlin and Brad Kay. Those tire fails with Busch being notable was bad luck. I wonder if those Goodyear tires were Pirellis in disguise. Reference, I suppose. I guess I didn't watch it in the morning, but I know the F1 race had quite the dramatic finish. So that's a good joke. And I do want to talk about those tire failures in just a moment, and Kyle Busch as well. Last super chat, Chris Cahill, thank you for the $5 Canadian. With Brad out of the running of the 48, I was thinking, and with Chase Briscoe could be called up. What do you guys think with Clint going to the grammar was all over the place on this one, Chris. But yes, what do you guys think of of Clint Boyer possibly going to the 48? I don't think that's happening.
I don't say that.
No.
That seems a little out there.
In the chat.
No, it can't happen. I think Clint's better for the broadcast booth right now.
The only place besides back in the 14 I see him going is like what Ian just said, back in the broadcast booth.
I see funny in the chat. Jeff Gluck left in there. He says, "You guys giving your race ratings reminded me I hadn't tweeted out the poll results yet."
I know. I was just about to literally say our guest coming up just tweeted that it was ranked 73.2%, which made it third highest of all of his New Hampshire polls.
So all the fans agree with this as well. That's awesome. Well, we'll
get into the podcast poll in a bit too. We just got polls galore.
So many polls. We have one more super chat we just got from Ryan. Thank you. Want your take? Jimmy Johnson back part-time in 2021. Brad K holding out for that ride to be renumbered the 4 next year. I don't know. They're not going to renumber. Maybe there's a typo in here. Well, thank you for the super chat, Ryan. I don't think Jimmy Johnson's not racing NASCAR next year, especially not Cup Series, and especially not full time.
I mean, possible, but it's really the odds for that are like probably 100 to 1, 120 to 1, or something like that.
I mean, Blake Shelton tweeted out kind of this weekend, being like, "Hey Jimmy, one more year," and Jimmy Johnson was like, but he's just teasing things.
Not today, I don't think
Inside
so. Inside
Uranus in the chat with another super chat says Denny Hamlin to the 48. Yeah, that's one day and the world will explode.
The FedEx 48 car.
Oh god.
Maybe in my alternate universe of NASCAR 07 that can happen. Who knows?
Well, before we move on entirely from New Hampshire, I know we have a lot to get to tonight, but I want to talk a little bit about Kyle Busch finishing dead last. You tweeted this out shortly after the incident, Jarrett, but is it time for Kyle Busch fans, like we've probably kind of hinting at this, but is it now finally time for Kyle Busch fans to panic a little bit? I mean, he's like 10th or 11th in points if we look at like the traditional point standings, not looking at the playoff grid. Of course, he only has one playoff point. I don't know if there's a car issue, if this had anything to do with him scraping the wall on lap 12 or whatever it was. Like, should Kyle Busch fans be worried? I'll start with you, Danny. I want to hear what your thoughts on this are.
I don't know, Carl. I don't know if Kyle Busch fans need to be worried right now, but it's definitely showing a cause for concern because, I mean, you have 2 more times where what happened at New Hampshire happens, and then you got a fair shot of not making it. There's a lot of these tracks that are coming up where he's had success at before. You know, he's won at Dover, but he's also had a lot of bad races at Dover. I can recall quite a few races where his day ended really early at Dover. So if he does that 2 times when we go to Dover, like that spells trouble. But, you know, they may get it going in time for the upcoming races that we got. And, you know, that road course race at Daytona, that's going to be a wild card for anybody. But, hey, he's one of the few who has experience on that track this year. So I don't know if I'm worried, but I would show signs of concern, especially if more wild card winners show up.
Yeah, I'm not that worried about him missing the playoffs. I think he still makes the playoffs, even if he has 2 more DNFs here in the next 2 weeks. I think he still makes the playoffs. He's got like a 90-point cushion. I just think for Kyle Busch and Kyle Busch fans, it's sort of championship or bust, or at the very least championship 4 or bust. And right now it looks like Kyle's en route to a round of 12 or maybe a round of 8 exit, though. He doesn't look like a championship 4 driver, and I feel like being the defending champion, being a driver who's made the championship 4, I think every year of this format except 2014, if I'm not mistaken, I feel like that would be a disappointment if they were to just completely miss on it once we get into the playoffs. But I don't know if anyone else has any other thoughts on that.
Go ahead.
Thank you. I would say right now, maybe a tiny bit worried because, you know, of course, you know, lack of practice and qualifying has been a big issue, I think, for that 18 team. But I feel like, you know, if you guys recall back 2017, we kind of saw something similar where he had a little bit of a winless streak going. And then about the same time, I think it was like around the second race of Pocono, he won that race, I think. So, I mean, I think this is a situation where he could possibly win soon and get in because he's already, as Eric said, he has a big cushion right now. I do think he makes it. And if I'm a Kyle Busch fan, I shouldn't really be worried because that same year where he had that winless streak and won at Pocono, he made the round of 4. Yeah, different package and all, but, you know, same Gen 6 car. I think, you know, he's going to make it far still. You know, it's Kyle Busch.
I think I'm in a different boat than a lot of people. I still think going playoff grid wise, at this point, you're still unsure. And for Kyle Busch standards, that's like the end of the – I saw like Kyle Busch fans on on Twitter. And I know Twitter's not real life, but it was kind of funny being a Dale Jr. fan through 2009 and 2010, looking at this. Kyle Busch fans being like, the end is nigh, the season's over, this is horrible. And I'm like, bro, you're sitting 11 in points. You're good, dude. Like, this is not a bad season. Like, for your standards, it might be, but it just shows how good Kyle Busch has been. But, I mean, he's 94 ahead right now over Reddick. I'd say Reddick, Johnson, Jones, Wallace, I don't know, Stenhouse gets a win. You got to cut 15 more points off that gap. That'll leave you at 79, which is just barely over a race's worth of points. Like, again, he's been maddeningly inconsistent at this point so far this season. When it rains, it pours for this guy. I mean, you look at like 2012, for instance, when he started hitting a bad streak, he had like 4 or 5 straight engine failures, knocked him out. Like, I still don't think that he is set whatsoever to make it. I mean, we were looking a few weeks ago at Matt Benedetto and thinking this dude's set to make it. And while he's 40 up, he's the second lowest guy that's in right now. And then you look at the playoff points that Kyle Busch has. I believe he only still has 1 because he only won 1 stage. So he would start off, if he doesn't, because they also give the bonus points for top 10. If he's not in the top 10, he might start off 15th right off the bat. And then every reset be the second lowest or lowest one on the totem pole. So it's like, I'd say for Kyle Busch standards, I do think it is time to worry. It's 1 year. Every great has a bad year during their reign. You look at Dale Earnhardt, he had a bad year in 1992. You look at Jimmy Johnson, had a bad year for his standards in 2011. You look at Jeff Gordon, for instance, from about 2002 to I'd say about 2003, then 05 and 06. I mean, there was only one of those years he was actually really a championship contender in there. It happens to every great driver. If he starts doing like racing like this for 2 or 3 years, I think then you really have to worry like what is going wrong. But if you were just talking about 2020, I think that it is time to worry if you're a Kyle Busch fan, like what's going to happen going towards the end of the season.
As when you spoke about Jeff Gordon, I would also say probably 08 to 2010, no wins during that time. You know what I mean? That was, as a Gordon fan, that's tough.
Yeah.
Yeah, now that certainly is a good point. Well, we only have a few races left. Kyle Busch still has a chance. He's got some good tracks for himself coming up. Of course, the Daytona Road Course is a complete wild card, you could say, but he still has a chance to rack up a few more playoff points before the playoffs roll around. But they are rolling up very, very quick. So before we move on to our next topics, Jared, I know do you have a kind of an agenda for us tonight?
I mean, I have topics, but there are no specific order.
Right, well,
I mean, just poll and ratings. That's about it.
All right, we can look at the poll here in just a moment. First, we have 2 more super chats. GN, thank you. He says, "Watch Kyle pull a 2011 Tony Stewart on everyone." He very well could. If anyone could, it would be Kyle Busch. And then Billy88 Joe, thank you, Billy88 Joe. I appreciate it. Who will be the Sunoco rookie contenders in 2021? Do you think we'll see any high-profile rookies make the jump to Cup between now and next season?
Maybe Briscoe.
Yeah, maybe Briscoe, I'd say. I don't think Cindric yet, but maybe Briscoe.
I think Briscoe definitely. I think Cindric only if DiBenedetto gets kind of shafted at Wood Brothers. We could see him in the 21 car.
But just still possible. Look at last year in August, like with Levine and the Gibbs brigade. It's possible. But I don't think so. I think Chase Briscoe is about the only one. Maybe if Clint Boyer retires, but looks like he's trying to work something out. And
there might be some lower profile driver, who gets a ride in a Rick Ware car full time, or maybe not Rick Ware car, but someone might end up in another car that we don't really talk about that much. But yeah, Chase Briscoe with still some uncertainty over at SHR, perhaps I think makes the most sense. So we're kind of in agreement there. But
Angela Ruck going full time Cup Series racing, baby.
Yep. Boiler, they're the ones who bought that charter from Levine. Everyone's talking about Spire. No, it was actually Mike Ruck coming in hard with the big fat checks.
Oh God,
breaking every rule to get there.
I think about that whole thing. I just go back to Barstool's whole thing against them and all that. That was crazy.
I mean, her uncle does own Starcom, so.
Oh, there you go. Yeah. Well, sure.
That meme.
with that happy fun note, do we want to jump into the poll for New Hampshire before we move on?
Yeah, but real quick, I'll read off the ratings because there's like good and bad news with it.
Oh yeah.
So this race got a 1.38 rating, 2.21 million viewers, which is down from a 1.7 rating last year and 2.79 million people watching. Granted, the NBA was also not against it last year. But speaking of the NBA and MLB being against it, it was the highest rated sporting program of the weekend. So it's that odd time that even in August, for the first time since like 2005, NASCAR is the most popular sport in America at this time of the year.
It's wild.
Yeah, I mean, that's really just crazy, especially when you know it was LeBron, I think, playing it too. I mean,
and it was on like big ESPN and
it was,
NBCs and
ABCs. They were on big networks.
Fox Baseball, you know.
They were.
So it's, you know, while it's down, I think that a lot of eyes are just being drawn everywhere else, a lot of different directions. But for it to be that high up, that's something to look positive for. Now we just gotta get the ratings to start going up in general. But yeah, I can get the poll really quick. I got the tab pulled up before the show started.
Cool.
So we didn't break any records again. Again, this is like the low period of the year when it comes to the podcast poll, but 6,000 of you voted. So thank you very much, everybody at home. 13% of you thought this was a great race. 60% of you thought it was good. So net positivity of 73%. 19% of you are on the fence, saying it's average. Then 4% each for below average and bad, which is a net negativity of 8%. Let's see what some of you guys thought in here. Man on the internet, in bold letters, goes Brad Keselowski won this race.
Good delivery.
Motorsports Fan 17 leaves the lyrics to Smokin' by Boston. Good song and good band. Let's see what else we got. You know it's 2020 when Kyle Busch is still winless this far into the season, says Caleb Leno. Tank says, I was getting my hopes up for a fuel mileage race. Caleb again with the lyrics to Go Cubs Go. Good man, Caleb.
He knows his audience.
Michael Marutz's twin brother leaves. Now that they've raced at New Hampshire, when are they going to race Old Hampshire? Very clever.
I want to die.
I'm just going to scroll down and see what else we got in here. Let's see. I'm trying to find the ones that are appropriate to say on stream without me breaking my cussing abstinence.
This is why we stopped share screenings, because we don't want to see all that profanity.
Podcast,
Let's see. Left Turn Production says the first half was good, second half was stale. I could kind of agree with that. I'd say it's thirds more or less. Let's see. This was awesome. There was action all over the track, says Kodiak 3.
Positivity.
I'm going to scroll down a little bit. Why did I say roll down? John V says 3 out of 5. Okay. Sorry, buddy. NASCAR fan 97 asks, what's with all the song lyrics? It's the meme, man. It's the meme. Eric Core, I know there's a lot of fans of ours named Eric. Says
we're all in a Facebook group together.
Who's the real?
But he says sad rowdy noises. Let's see what the final comment was on here. It is from an account called NRF18. Says, I can't believe this track had 2 dates. I wouldn't be able to watch both of those. Yeah.
Why is the last comment, the first comment, always so negative? I've noticed that in the last few times we've done this. It's always like, oh yeah, pretty good race. Then we always like, okay, who's the first comment? It's always, this sucks. I wasted my entire life. You know? Like, goodness.
Meanwhile, like the comment right above that was a Soviet national anthem.
There you go.
In Russian.
With that one.
Oh, they always have it in there. But yeah, so thank you guys for voting on the poll. It's always fun to read your comments, even if I can't read them live. So I guess we can get probably into one more story before we hit the lightning round at the halfway point. So who wants to talk free agency? More specifically, Bubba Wallace here, because he's been the big free agent right now since BK has been signed up.
Yeah, I mean, for those catching up, the 450 people we have watching, reports suggest Bubba Wallace has been offered 10 to 20% ownership of Richard Petty Motorsports if he signs an extension to stay with that team beyond this season. It sounds like, though, at least from the things I've read, it sounds like Bubba's had a contract sitting on his desk with Richard Petty for a couple of months. And it sounds like only recently, perhaps, they sweetened the deal by adding in, oh, well, you can also have some owner stake in it. Okay. And I have a feeling they only added that in the last few days, maybe because of a lot of the murmurs, a lot of the rumors that Chip Ganassi Racing is interested in Bubba Wallace and Hendrick Motorsports might be interested in Bubba Wallace. So I don't know. If you ask me, I think he stays with Richard Petty Motorsports, but if I was Bubba Wallace, I would think like a driver right now more than I would think like a businessman. Because while I think partial ownership of Richard Petty Motorsports is certainly worth something, if I'm Bubba Wallace and you think about he is bringing in some new sponsors right now, he's attracting some extra attention, I feel like he should take that platform and really his next step should be to actually win races and prove to the haters, if you will, that he is belongs in the Cup Series and can thrive and succeed in the Cup Series. I think owning Richard Petty Motorsports, just in the grand scheme of things, isn't a great long-term plan, and it's not one I think I would bank on long-term. I think Richard Petty Motorsports is desperate for Bubba Wallace to sign an extension with them because I think they are relying on him long-term. But if I'm Bubba Wallace, I would think like a driver first and go where I think I can win races right now.
I agree. I think that at this point, like if I'm Bubba Wallace, I'm jumping on the Ganassi 42, more than likely going to be teammates with Kurt Busch. I get people are like wanting him to be loyal. This is the Cup team that's sort of been trying to build him up and has stuck by him, especially through this year. But let's be completely honest here. I'm a fan of Bubba Wallace personally, but let's look at his stats as a driver, and they don't match up a lot with popularity. Now, it's not a rip on him. It's just being truthful about it. He hasn't been with a top team. Now, these numbers are here right now, and they have improved this year. But how many more times, let's say he signs a 3-year deal and has partial ownership in the team and now is tethered to the team. How many more opportunities like this where you could get a Ganassi 42 car come along? Like in 3 years' time, what happens if RPM starts going down the tubes and all of a sudden you can be a free agent again, but you've been running 30th or so. And then let's say, I don't know, the 48 car is open again, or the 11 car is open, or the 4. You could have had a team like that before, and now you can't. Like with the 42 right now, you can't. Or you can right now, I should say. I'd say jump on it right now. I get the loyalty argument, but look what Eric Almirola did. He had sponsorship with him the same way that Bubba Wallace seems to have right now. And he bet on himself. He went to SHR, said, there's no excuses now. I can do better. And while there's been some rough patches, right now he's the most consistent driver in NASCAR, period. He is up front. And he's qualifying in the top 3 every week. But he's up front a lot. He's racing well. So I'd say if you're Bubba, go for it, because we've seen what he can do in good equipment. We saw what he could do with Roush in their Xfinity program before that shut down. We've seen what he could do in the Toyota pipeline in the Truck Series. And he's shown that if he is given a chance with equipment that can run up front, he can make it work. He can get up front and he can win races. So I'd go with it, man. I'd go with it, because you don't know if this opportunity is ever going to come again.
I agree. I think Jared hit on it perfectly right there. Why stay another year or another 3 years at RPM? Basically, probably, going to be like 20th, somewhere around that in the standings, then go to, as you said, the 42 or 48 and, win some races so you basically went from maybe only winning at restrictor plate or road course to winning, basically being consistent every single week with your talent. Obviously you're going to pick the talent one.
Yeah.
I gotta say this. One of the things that was come out is that he was offered partial ownership of the team. I just got to ask, at the age of 26 years old that Bubba is, why is that necessarily something that you want when you're just trying to become a NASCAR driver? If he's like, in his late 30s, and then maybe ownership is something, could be something to consider, kind of like what eventually happened with Jeff Gordon, maybe. But with Richard Petty Motorsports, like no offense, like it wasn't long ago we were wondering how much longer they could even go on as it was before all the publicity came in and all the attention for new sponsors came in. And no offense, if all these new sponsors come in, the performance just goes like that after they're signed on, will be enough to keep them around. Whereas these new sponsors can follow them over to a competitive car and maybe stay around longer. Just my thoughts.
The whole thing was also with Gordon owning Hendrick is that he was basically already going to be a franchise driver at Hendrick Motorsports. Won 3 championships, won a Ford championship the year when they started getting that 4th car come in. That was Jimmy Johnson's. They brought Lowe's over, and look what happened. If it wasn't for Gordon, I don't think we would even have Johnson.
Yeah, and also in the case of Gordon, Hendrick Motorsports was established as arguably the best team in the sport at that time. Richard Petty Motorsports is a 20 to 25th place team most weeks. I mean, again, none of us know Bubba Wallace personally. If perhaps he's always wanted to be step into an ownership role, if he's always been interested in that, if this is something that is interesting to him, and if he really has that strong of ties within the organization. I mean, doesn't he have Richard Petty's name tattooed on his arm as part of a bet or something like that? Maybe
I want to see that tattoo.
Maybe those ties are deeper than we give him credit for, and maybe this does make a lot of sense for him. He wants to build it up himself. But if I was Bubba, as young as he is, kind of like you said there, Danny, I would go think like a driver and think, where can I win fast right now? Especially because right now, I mean, I know extenuating circumstances, and we'll talk about it later in the show, but a single car team just shut down. I mean, let's talk about that for a moment. They just had to sell entirely, which again isn't maybe the worst case scenario for Bubba in the future, but stepping into even partial team ownership at that young of an age with the team that we don't really know what its future holds, I would think like a driver and go to the faster team if he gets an offer. But we at this point don't even know that he's gotten an offer from Hendrick or Chip Ganassi. We know both those teams have perhaps a longer list of drivers that they're even looking at. So worst case, I think this fallback's not too bad if he ends up staying with Richard Petty.
I think right before the show, because I hadn't looked on Twitter in the past 2 hours or so, but I think right before the show started, Adam Stern tweeted something about that he's looking at his options and that the 42 was in there as one of the options. Personally, I'm going with the 42. I think, and I hate saying this with you in here, Eric, I think Kenseth is the reason that team's struggling, not the crew chief. I just think he's not equipped with the way that these packages are, and he's been out of the car, and it's just, and yeah, I mean, you saw how it ran at the start of the season with Kyle Larson running in it. Say what you want about Kyle Larson, the dude can wheel a race car and was up in the top 5, give or take. I mean, so if you're potentially with the top 10, top 5 car compared to a 20th, 25th, maybe a 15th place car on a good day, man, go for it.
Here's something that will tell you how good Larson was doing at the beginning of the season. So currently, Kyle Larson, they can't remove him from the point standings. He's still in the point standings. He's actually ahead of Quinn Houff, who has ran the full season.
I thought we were going to go 1 week without bashing Quinn Houff, but here we are.
I'm just saying.
The facts. I get it. It's the facts.
Yeah. That's not right.
Dang.
He can't help it.
That does put it into perspective. That puts everything into a little bit of perspective, though. So, yeah, it's an interesting future. I'll go and get to a couple super chats here because we did have one sort of involving this. First up from Thomas: could Team Penske add a 4th car for Austin Cindric? I don't know. What do you guys think about that possibility?
No,
I don't think so. But if it brings enough money, I guess. But I don't think so.
The thing is, I can't say that he's bringing in the money because he's had sponsors that have been Penske sponsors.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think this is a weird year to add a 4th car when you have I feel like I would wait until the next gen is actually being implemented to start up a 4th team rather than spend all those reasons. Maybe it makes sense actually to start a 4th team this year because you're not going to be using these cars beyond 2021 anyways. So we'll see. That it's a possibility, but I would be skeptical as well.
I also feel like the 21, even though it's a Wood Brothers car, is technically, when you think about it, also a Penske car because of the alignment there too. So
yeah.
So it's hard for them to justify going to basically a 5th car then at that point.
Definitely. On this topic as well from GN, he says, I wouldn't sign into ownership of a team that's been a handshake away from death for the past 2 years, only narrowly saved by Bubba's sponsorship. It's kind of harsh words, but he's not maybe not entirely wrong there. There's some truth to that.
That's kind of what I was saying. So
I mean, that was the whole debacle with the Smithfield deal. Is Petty had a handshake agreement with Smithfield when Almirola left, and this day and age, handshakes don't mean a whole lot, even when it's with the king. So yeah, that's
Smithfield said, "I'm a head out."
Yeah. Chris said, is Truex a quiet Championship 4 contender? I think yes. I think that's exactly how I would summarize him right now. He's been quiet this year, but is certainly a championship contender. And then lastly, from Ryan, also on this topic, if Bubba leaves and Richard Petty Motorsports survives, who replaces him?
Yes, as sad as this is now, Christopher Bell may be a good option.
I think Bell's going to the 20, honestly.
Yeah,
I think that he has to. I mean, it's his first year so far, and if it had to be anyone, that's tough. I mean, maybe like Eric Jones.
Well, it's like it's either Jones. It's either Jones or Bell. Like whoever stays, it gives. You know.
Well,
I feel like they may get like another rookie, like an average rookie driver in the Xfinity series, and bring him up or something like that to the 43.
And doesn't the 43 have a sort of an alliance with Richard Childress? Aren't they somewhat aligned?
Easy R, I think,
so
and all that stuff.
Think about who's driving the 21 in Xfinity this year. I don't think you're going to see Anthony Alfredo or Myatt Snyder in the Cup Series next year, but I mean,
well, that's really it. That's basically it.
Crazier things have happened, I guess. You could say maybe Ty Dillon ends up over there and something happens. I don't know, but
maybe Chastain.
Maybe. Bake the Snake just says super chat. Wouldn't it make more sense to put Chastain in the 42 since he has a contract with Ganassi? Yeah, that's certainly another option as well. I wonder if that Adam Stern report, if that actually means they've given Wallace a straight up offer, because if that's the case, then I don't know. I'm a little surprised because I too would have thought Chastain would be high on their list.
You just got to ask though, like, is Chastain gonna be able to bring in the Cup Series like funding? You know, he's done pretty good on his Xfinity ride of getting the funding, and still bringing in some sponsors for running some truck races. But I almost kind of would like the idea of giving one more year at Colleague, and then heck, if Chastain hasn't found like the right opening with another team, the folks at Colleague Racing, they've been making a lot of moves. I'd almost anticipate them to be one of the next teams to jump up a series. Like they ran a Daytona 500 this year. I wouldn't be surprised to see that one day.
That would be pretty cool to see.
Quick, I just want to update you guys. My war with the flies is continuing for some reason. Two of them just now are like, oh, it's time to land on me.
Or with the Flies. That sounds like another great book.
The sequel.
I think I got one. I'm like sitting here like.
I saw one.
You ever seen Uncle Buck? When he has the drill and he's like, if anyone's seen Uncle Buck, they know what I'm talking about, where he has the drill and he's going after him. That's how I am looking at these flies right now. I just want to. Anyway, way off topic. Welcome to the NASCAR Weekly Podcast.
Yeah, well, we've hit pretty much the halfway point of this episode. I know we have our other guests coming in shortly, but I guess with that being said, we'll talk more silly season with him, I'm sure. But do we want to go ahead and get into the lightning round? You feeling loose and ready over there, Jarrett?
Hold on, I think so.
Stretch. Can't be pulling too many muscles on the weekly podcast here. Come on.
Wait, we don't have.
I'm pretty sure I already pulled a few, anyways.
Who's going to be able to do this?
Oh no.
Me. Okay, let's get into the lightning round here. So last week we talked about how Texas and Vegas might have swapped. Bob Cockers reported that that's unlikely. Thank God, because I have a flight out to Vegas that weekend. IMSA has been added to the NASCAR Roval weekend schedule, so I might have to drive down there to that one too. That can't be too much more of a drive or less of a drive than Daytona. So, anyone hear about a certain testing failure and a certain 75-point penalty? And holy crap, how did they think they could get away with that? A little non-NASCAR news here. John Force Racing will not return to the NHRA season this year due to COVID-19, and the Indy 500 will have no fans. Somewhere David Land is screaming at the sky. We love you, David. Yeah, but that does suck. Looking on here, the Daytona Road Course race will be called the Go Bowling 235. There will be a chicane in the oval turn 4 side of the track. They will use a 750 horsepower package, high downforce. The truck race will have a 12-lap stage, 13 lap, then 19. Xfinity is 15, 15, 22, and Cup is 15, 15, 35. So there's some news there.
I like that name. Go bowling 235. It sounds like a score anyone would love to score when they're bowling.
You know, everyone at NBC right now is already readying their bowling, references and puns to tie into Daytona.
Yeah. Ours are pins. That's what it's going to be.
It's not like Fox with Vegas.
And you see this big wreck, guys. It's like a bunch of bowling pins. They just got hit by the ball.
Oh, Kurt Busch bowling over the competition here in the backstretch chicane. Yeah, that's gonna be one
Ricky
of those types
Stenhouse knocking all the pins off the track.
Well, that's a strike right there.
then someone was a driver getting furious to say this pinhead won't get out of the way.
They're gonna call pit road the gutters. And he's heading down the gutter here. Stenhouse is throwing a gutter ball here. He's on pit road.
Welcome to the NASCAR bowling podcast. All right, back to it, Jared.
Free content right now.
So here's some happy news. Congratulations to Chad and Brooke Knaus on the birth of their daughter. And then let's see what else we got. Greg Zipadelli is coming out of retirement. He will be a crew chief for a week for Clint Boyer during Boyer's crew chief's suspension. It's not a permanent thing, but so if anyone wanted to see Zippy on top of the box one last time, now is your chance to see on TV because you can't be there. RPM says that it's getting sponsors set up for next year, hopes that is enough to keep Bubba Wallace in the 43. More good news. Still no clusters or traces of COVID-19 sprouting up from Bristol from what reports are. So hopefully that keeps going. Knock on wood. Let's see what else we got here. Oh, there's a lot. Interesting stat of the day. Jimmy Johnson has crashed out of 40% of the races this season, 8 of 20.
I'm more
crashed.
Did that really need to be on the lightning round?
I hope because I'm wearing my Jimmy Johnson shirt that this brings good luck. I don't want to jinx anything right now, but I hope this is actually some good luck over here. So, if he wins Michigan, if he wins the doubleheader in Michigan, just thank your guest.
Because I think he's only won there once.
I wonder if he can make it a perfect.
So he's due
48%.
God. Well, we talked about earlier Matt Kenseth having a new crew chief. We talked about the penalty earlier. Ooh, this one is for Carnation.
Oh boy,
I'm so happy about this one.
Oh,
Ryan Newman is going to be sponsored by Coca-Cola.
Hey.
There you go.
Yeah, he's mad.
Meanwhile, Pepsi is hiding Pepsi entirely and only doing Mountain Dew.
Okay, yeah, we talked about Indy 500 with no fans. Daniel Hemrick's Darlington throwback is to pay respects to John Andretti, and it looks really badass. If you haven't seen it, really good looking.
I have not seen it yet. I have to go see it then.
Is it just me, or is it very surprising that we've seen very few Darlington throwbacks so far, and it's almost here?
I think there's just distractions.
Yeah, I think with everything going on, it's just kind of is what it is.
If I get a hint, is it the Cheerios throwback or no?
I'll give you a hint. It's purple.
Purple. Ooh.
Brendan Gaughan will run the Daytona Road Course as well now for Beard Motorsports in the 62 car.
I didn't know that's what it was called. I thought it was just an extension of RCR, to be honest.
There's two other stories here. One, Jesse Iwuji is making his first Xfinity start at Road America.
Good for him.
Good for him.
Keep all four tires on the asphalt.
Yeah, let's just go with that.
Car straight.
And then the SRX had a tweet about a rear wing and showed the entire car. And Chase Elliott said, "I'm in," when asking about it with Ray Evernham. I'm telling you, this is going to sound like a weird comparison, but it's an election year, so I'll make the comparison. The SRX is running their account and their promotion right now like a political campaign in an election. They're just giving little hints of what everybody wants to hear, getting their core audience together, and it's working perfectly. Like, we don't even know if this is actually how the car is going to look. For all we know, it could look like, that golf cart back there.
Go-karts.
I love it, man. I love it. Like, they are just playing the game perfectly. And I can't wait to see what they have when they actually have concrete news to give out other than just pictures.
I think it's interesting how they have so many pictures ready, because when people got mad about the splitter, like, they were just like, boom, here's another one.
That's what I'm saying. I don't think the car is actually going to look like this. I think they're just like feeling it out right now. And then they'll know by like the end of the year, okay, like the fans don't want this. They don't want this. this can work. Let's just go with this. So, yeah.
Hey, this is a good little political thing that they're doing, not the bad stuff that I always see on Twitter. So I'll take it.
And that right there is the lightning round.
Woo.
So
somewhere Darian is going.
First lightning round.
Yeah.
A lot of lightning.
I wish
hold
I
on,
could.
let's see. And once again.
Can I like? Oh, there we go. I can like strobe lights. All right, there we go.
I say in Darian's honor, we all need to try our own little version of the and.
Okay, I'll go for
All
it.
right.
And once again.
Oh, it didn't peak. And I tried to stay away from the microphone.
I'll go to some. And once again.
I guess it's my turn. And once again, boys, it's your boy Black Flag Matter. I will see you next time.
That's pretty accurate, honestly.
Well, and right as we finish that up, our next guest is on as well. Mr. Jeff Gluck is coming in.
I'm so glad he didn't come in while we were screaming. That
Yeah,
would have been bad.
That would be really embarrassing.
There's a reason we have a passcode.
There we
How's it
go.
going?
Oh, he's
Oh,
gotta
the
connect
audio's still
There we
connecting.
go.
I keep forgetting that.
Yeah.
You got us, Jeff.
Oh yeah. Hey, what's up?
How's
Sorry,
it going?
I have like terrible lighting here. I'm using my headphones because I'm at my in-laws' house here in Indianapolis for a month. So I'm in like a spare bedroom. I'm like under a shelf. And sorry, it looks like amateur hour here, but I'm here.
Oh, it's all good, man. It's all good. I'm glad to have you in here.
Yeah, no, it's awesome to be on. I was looking the last time I was on, I think was like Daytona-ish, like last February, like 2019, and I was like, man, it's like a whole different world since then, you know. So
Yeah.
a lot's happened. Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
crazy thinking
This is-
about that.
We're seeing a more jaded Jeff Gluck now that he's seen been through the horrors of 2020 like the rest of us.
Yeah.
Seeing
Yeah.
everything.
We're seeing the Jeff Gluck having to hide in his in-laws' bedroom here and tweet about NASCAR, write articles about NASCAR.
Yeah, this is actually my pandemic bunker. I was just saying it was my in-laws, but it's actually my
We
my
got the
Carl
code.
Edwards like bunker. Yeah.
We have confirmed Jeff Gluck is a prepper.
yeah, exactly.
But let's get into the stories really quick if y'all are
Of course.
good with it.
Wait, I'm sorry. Now I just had sorry, Jeff. I have this mental vision. You and Carl Edwards are stuck in this bunker and you've been hiding it this whole time.
Or maybe
So-
Jeff Gluck is really Carl Edwards in disguise.
Probably.
I drove out to Indianapolis from Denver, so I passed right through Columbia, Missouri,
Mm.
and I was like, man, I should just pull off here and just try to like track down Carl and like, just be like show up at his farm or whatever and be like, hey, Carl, you know. But then I thought that would be more likely to get me like arrested than actually produce a good story or something. So I was just like, I'll just keep driving.
Hey,
But-
Carl, how are you doing? Hey, why are the cops here all of a sudden? Carl,
Yeah.
what happened here?
Do you have a good enough relationship with Carl Edwards? Do you think you could show up at his doorstep uninvited and he would be willing to like chat, or would he be very turned off by that?
I think he would. It would. I don't know. It was always weird with him. I mean, sometimes, I'd be like, all right, you know, like I feel like I have a good working relationship with Carl, and then other times, he would get like really frustrated with me for something I'd write that I thought I was like, oh, I didn't realize this was going to be taken, you know, offense. You know, he was going to be taking offense to this. So I think he was somebody who really cared sort of like about how he was portrayed, you know? And so if that came off wrong, even if you didn't intend for it to be, like he would let you know about it. Like he called me a couple times and been like, hey man, this isn't cool. And I'm like, oh, I wasn't even supposed to be written that way, you know?
Yeah.
But I feel like we got along pretty good overall. It's just, I miss his personality and his character in NASCAR. I think he brought a lot to the table that is sort of absent now. You know what I mean?
Definitely. Yeah, I think all of us here can agree with that. So Jared, what was the next topic on the agenda? I don't even know where we're at.
Well, we got a few of them. I guess we can put it up to a decision here. But I was thinking like there's a big debate right now about whether or not qualifying should be brought back during this. And it's the random draw versus qualifying debate. And I want to kind of see where everyone sits on this one, because I know for a fact Eric Almirola hopes they never qualify again. But at the same time, Jimmy Johnson is questioning the methods. So I kind of want to see, like, I don't know who wants to go off first. Like, what are your thoughts on the qualifying versus random draw debate right now?
Remember those thunder plates that they always had in like the old NASCAR games where like you clicked on them and then all of a sudden you got the pole? That's Eric Almirola right there. He's just clicking on all these thunder plates right now every single time, making sure they has a pole. But if it's me, you bring back qualifying. You have to.
I might wonder if part of me wants to say, wonder if we should do random draw for like the entire field 1 through 40, but no, that's not a good idea. That's probably even worse.
No, that's too much potential parity. I think in a perfect world, I would like qualifying to return. I just want in the playoffs, since each round of the playoffs is kind of a shortened 3-race season, and every point, every stage point matters so much, especially at some tracks. I would like there to be some sort of merit-based qualifying format. I understand that like currently the random draw is sort of merit-based because the top 12 in points get top 12 spots, and then so on and so on, but I'd like it to be a little bit more specific than that. If it's even as something as like take your fastest lap from the last race, and that's now how you start the next one, even if it's something as simple as that, I think there's at least something to that where you feel like the fastest drivers are being rewarded based on actual on-track activity, not by ping pong balls. That's just me.
So it'd literally be like NASCAR Heat 5 style,
I guess. Yeah, pretty much in online lobbies. Yeah.
So
if you do that and you go to Daytona coming up here soon, the race before the playoffs begin,
that would be wild indeed.
What if a car is usually in the back set the quickest time, and now all of a sudden they're starting at the front for the first race in the playoffs?
You know what? Go for it at this point. All bets are off, honestly.
Word on the street is something's coming tomorrow on this, and I don't know exactly what it is, but it sounds like it's going to be one of these only in NASCAR can they come up with this kind of thing.
Oh gosh.
Apparently, I don't know exactly what it is, so I can't report it, but it's some sort of formula supposedly to come up with starting spots, and I think that this will be revealed tomorrow, or this will be announced tomorrow. So
good Lord.
I don't know what goes into the formula, but there's going to be some sort of math involved that will determine starting spots going forward, since everybody thought that it wasn't fair to just do the draw. So,
well, I'll reserve my judgment, I guess, until it's actually revealed. But part of me wishes, just to bring this whole year full circle, they just did like on Thursday afternoon, like an iRacing event, and had the top finishers of the iRacing race get the pole for that race. Honestly,
I was just about to say, do some kind of qualifying with iRacing. Just let them set quick time on iRacing, and there you go.
Just give William Byron the pole every week. That would be
absolutely
fantastic. Well,
yeah, make sure Denny Hamlin's kids are not there, or else the plug's going to be unplugged of his machine again.
Oh my gosh.
I'm just saying the ratings would be great. Maybe. I don't know, actually. Well,
if they aired some kind of like iRacing qualifying on like FS1 race up, I'd want to tune in for that.
That's what I'm saying. I'm just but no,
I like that.
A formula that's giving me flashbacks to like, I don't remember what year it was when they did like the
All-Star race.
Yeah, the All-Stars, where they try to average finish based on the end of each stage, and it just, I remember being frustrated because there was like, I was doing the math in my head, I'm like, hold on a minute, why is Harvick in 12th? He should be third. Like it's something about it was off to me. I couldn't figure it out, if maybe it was just too big for my 13-year-old brain at the time or what. But well, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess I need to reserve judgment myself, just because I don't know. I just don't know what goes into it, what they're going to use. But I don't know. Part of me just thinks, don't overcomplicate it. Just go with like fastest lap from the previous race or whatever, and just be done with it. I don't know.
What's kind of the conversation around the garage? Like, because I understand they want to limit as many people from being at the track as possible and all that, but we look at other motorsports around the country even that are still doing a form of qualifying, kind of the way it always has been done. What's kind of stopping NASCAR from doing that, at least for the Cup Series, you think?
It's definitely, I think it's twofold, right? So number one, if you come do qualifying, you have to run a qualifying setup. In theory, and that, and then if you were going to switch it back over, unless you're doing impound race, you need extra people at the track, and you also might need a backup car. So it really is saving teams time and money, because they're all working in crazy shifts right now. Like a lot of the teams are dividing up. Okay, they're working in 3 different shifts. I don't know. I'm fine with not doing qualifying is if you figure out a fair way for all of the current playoff contenders and stuff. Because like the whole thing about, oh, the difference between 12th and 13th could knock somebody from first to 24th or whatever. That's not, especially when people are trying to go for playoff spots. That's just, I don't know. Maybe you could just take the entire group of points contenders or something and do it that way. Or when the playoffs come, you could take all playoff drivers and do it that way, and then everybody else or something. But
what would make more sense to you, Jeff? Either one, take the point standings just as they are, from the previous week and just start them like that, or take the finishing positions from the previous race. Out of those two, which would make more sense?
I would love finishing positions, honestly, except inverted. I think that would be really, really cool because, look, I mean, how many times have we seen like, oh, Martin Truex Jr. failed inspection or whatever, and he's got to start at the back of the grid, and you're like, oh, everybody's like, I'm going to fade him on DraftKings and all this stuff, like everybody's out on Truex and he's going to have a bad day. And like by the end of stage one, it's like, oh, he finished fifth and he got all these stage points. No problem. The best teams come up through the field anyway. It seems like the track doesn't even matter. So, entertainment wise, I think there's been a lot of entertainment with inverts this year, like when they've had the double headers. And I don't know, would it really kill them to do that again? I mean, I know it's the playoffs and stuff, but hey, it makes it more exciting. If they're so entertainment focused, invert the running order from the previous race, even if it's a completely different track, and to see what happens. I mean, I'll take the chaos. I think that they'll overcome. The best teams will overcome it anyway. So that's my take anyway. It's not fair at all. It's going completely against what I just said about. I hope this formula is fair and everything. Now I'm saying do it just a pure invert from the previous race, but whatever.
Yeah, it's either make it as fair as possible or just make it the biggest entertainment-based crapshoot you can. Like it's basically a one or the other at this point.
Yeah, I like that.
And if you can't make it perfectly fair, like if there's still going to be some chance to it, then at that point maybe jump the shark and just go with inverts, go with something that just makes the first stage the most entertaining part of the race. That could very well be the way to go. But yeah.
So there's this, I guess, speaking of points and stuff, we can talk a bit about the playoff grid right here. I'll just read off the 11th through 16th and then 17th through 20th. Honestly, there's really like 20th on down. They just need to win. There's no way they're getting in on points, I don't think. But Almirola is up 145, Kurt Busch up 112, Kyle Busch 94, Boyer 43, DiBenedetto 40, Byron 15, and then Reddick is down 15, Johnson's down 25, Jones down 31. And then, like I said, everyone from Bubba in 20th on down is over 100 points back. So, like, I have for those of us that were on here last week, has any of our ideas of who's going to be in or out changed? And then for our guests, like, who do you guys think could be the ones that shake it up or in or out? Maybe the guys who are 100 points or more down winning. Like, what do you guys think when we have 6 races to go about the playoff cut line right now?
Well, I would honestly say if we go to the last race before the playoffs, Daytona, anything can happen there. I mean, anything. Don't be surprised if Ricky Stenhouse Jr. somehow makes it in the playoffs. Do not, I'm just saying it right now, do not be surprised at all if you see that 47 in the playoffs from winning Daytona.
I mean, don't be surprised if Michael McDowell wins or something. I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah. It really is. It's going to be exciting.
Yeah, I don't know. Looking at the standings the way they're at, Reddick's didn't really make up any ground this last week. Johnson lost some ground, kind of spinning out and having to fight from behind the rest of the race. Eric Jones just another rough day. I mean, I feel like the top 16 are starting to take shape. I personally still don't fully trust William Byron in that team to hold on to that lead. But I mean, look at the guys behind him. I don't really trust Eric Jones. I don't really trust Jimmy Johnson these days. And Tyler Reddick, as exciting as he's been to watch, he is still a rookie. And that team, getting 2 RCR cars in the playoffs this year compared to where they were less than a year ago it still sounds like a pipe dream to me. It still doesn't sound like a possibility. So I don't know if I can trust him. It's difficult. I think if we're going to talk about people who might blow up the system, I think you have to look at Stenhouse at the Super Speedway. I think also watch out for Christopher Bell. He had top 5 speed at times at New Hampshire this weekend. So he's, that's still a TRD supported car. And so, don't rule anything out with Christopher Bell.
I would really love to see LaFine Family Racing make it to the playoffs in their last year in the sport. I think that would really be a nice send off to them.
I still feel like, I of course I would have never thought, Cole Custer or Austin Dillon, we were going to win straight up on a intermediate track. But I feel like the group of contenders on points right now are the guys that we're going to see. And even though Jimmy's had such struggles, with 2 Dover races coming up, considering how good he is there, even though there's really no evidence that we've seen that they can put together a complete race and have a successful race, I feel like that's going to do wonders for him. You would think like he could go off and have 2 top 5s there. Maybe he could win a Dover. So I'm kind of banking on that for Jimmy. At the same time, I don't have a ton of faith in Boyer. It just feels like something always happens to Boyer. Even though he has a nice cushion right now with 40 whatever points, I could easily see him slipping up or falling out or something going wrong, maybe not even his fault, and somebody else taking advantage of it. So, and then at the same time, it's like, how can Eric Jones in a JGR car possibly not make the playoffs? I mean, you would think that they would be able to reel off some good finishes and find their way in, but I mean, it's getting kind of late. There's 4 weekends left, even though there's 6 races. I mean, you've got Michigan doubleheader, Daytona Road Course, Dover doubleheader, Daytona Oval, and you obviously don't want to wait till Daytona Oval to try to do anything.
No, because everyone else sees that as their chance.
No.
Yeah, and it's easy to.
Anything could happen.
Yeah, you could get caught up in a wreck like on lap 1 and you're done. So.
Well, another thing too is like a lot of people I think are kind of overlooking Michigan just because Michigan can finish up as a fuel mileage race. So somebody who's been running 25th all day could end up winning there. I mean, I don't think it's over by any chance, but I'd say if there's anyone that I have less than 50% confidence in making it, it's going to be Byron. I honestly think Reddick and that 8 team just have been better this year. It's just that they've had bad luck at different times, whereas Byron just seems to be getting slower as the year goes on. But I mean, what I think is going to be really interesting is if there are 2 winners that are below 15th in points, and that grid gets moved up between like Boyer to Benedetto, because that right there would bring Kyle and Kurt Busch then within striking distance of falling out of the cutoff line coming into Daytona. I don't think it's going to happen, but it's still right there up in the air. I think the only person I'm 100% confident will make it, that nothing crazy will happen, would be Eric Almirola, just because he, like I said before, he was the most consistent driver in NASCAR right now.
We'll get into this more when we get the picks, but hearing you talk about Tyler Reddick, like this weekend at Michigan, seeing how Reddick ran at Miami, finishing 2nd at Texas, I would be watching the 8 car this weekend, especially with 2 chances to get a win here. That's who I'm going to be watching out for.
And thinking about these double headers coming up, I mean, think about how important it's going to be to unload well on Saturday here at Michigan, because if you miss the setup on Saturday, you better make a great overnight change, or else that's 2 races in a row where you're going to run bad. Vice versa, if you unload really well at Michigan, that's 2 races in a row you have a chance to win. Same thing at Dover. So kind of like I said, it's 6 races, but it's really 4 weekends. So if you need to unload well in each of those 4 weekends. And I'm thinking about Tyler Reddick. Remember back at Phoenix when he ran 2nd and then blew a tire while running like 6th? Imagine if he doesn't blow that tire and gets a top 10. He's probably got himself a nice 10 or 15 point cushion sitting 15th or 16th on the cut line right now. And that would be quite the story.
I feel like Tyler Reddick has made RCR a better team altogether. I mean, Austin Dillon's improved, I think, because he saw Tyler Reddick run well. So he's like, oh man, this young gun's trying to beat me. I got to run well too. And you just see Reddick again running well. And, the team's just, look at them last year, 25th, 2nd or something like that.
Yeah.
Mediocre. Look at them this year. A little bit of average, almost kind of being above average a bit sometimes. Definitely an improvement.
I think it's more than just like one person did this, one person did that. I think that just that combination of having those two guys as your drivers to communicate, and help the team learn is probably better than any combination they've had in recent years. 2017, you had Newman, Menard, and Dylan. That group, all three of those guys, entirely different personalities. It seems Newman and Dylan, different personalities. Dylan and Hemrick, kind of similar, but I feel like Dylan's still a little bit different. But I've met and talked with Reddick before. I've met, not really had a conversation with Austin Dillon. Both of them seem like they have a very similar personality, and put those two together, they've probably been doing wonders, like communicating with the entire organization over there together.
Yeah, it's been a big year for that team.
If there's not anything else, we can move on to
Sure.
another piece of news that came up. I guess per Steve Phelps, the 2021 schedule could come out as soon as August. Jeff, I want to ask, is there any like rumors floating around? I mean, there's obviously some, but any water that are floating around right now about like what may be on or off? I mean, we know about Nashville, we know the date of the 500, stuff like that, but other than that, pretty much in the dark.
I mean, there's been a lot of Road America talk. It's weird. Like some races, some tracks will sort of like pop up and you'll be like, oh, they might go there. And then it kind of like, no, that wasn't really going to happen. So it's kind of been tough. I wonder how much this year, like, I wonder if they had like a lot of intentions for some places or like big designs on being super creative. And, I don't know this, but, the pandemic, the way everything's shaken out, because I guess let me back up. When they first started talking about this schedule coming up, it was supposed to be like, this is going to be groundbreaking, game changing, next gen schedule to go along with the next gen car. Like it was just going to be really revamped and game changer. And I just wonder how much that's sort of been put on hold. So maybe this sort of becomes sort of an evolution, just like the car where, do they go to Gateway? Maybe, but maybe they wait. I don't know. It's kind of hard to tell. There's just been so many people talking about different rumors. I doubt it all happens. So I don't know. The bottom line is I'm trying to keep my expectations a little bit lower after originally they were super sky high. Cause I'm like, oh yeah, this is going to be, they're going to be done with the Cup schedule by October because they're going to have all these midweek races. And then we saw how the midweek races did in the rating. So that kind of talk, kind of cooled off. Maybe double header weekends. Yes. But, I don't know. Originally I was like, this is just going to look so different, unrecognizable. I just don't think so anymore. I'm just rambling now, but I don't know. We'll see.
What would you say a track like Iowa? What do you think Iowa's chances are?
Well, I mean, it seems like NASCAR cooled on Iowa a lot because they laid off the Iowa staff. And then there was all this talk like, oh, Penske might buy Iowa just to save it, to keep it on like the IndyCar schedule. So I don't know. I mean, for a while, for so many years, right, it seemed like, oh, it's going to be a given that Iowa gets a Cup race someday. Every time they go there for Xfinity, everybody's like, oh yeah, it's, we got to get to Iowa. Iowa's going to be great. They need another track like this on the schedule, cool racing, and now it's just, I don't know. I don't know why it cooled off or whatever, but it kind of reminds me almost of like Pikes Peak in a way, where there was like this momentum to get to Colorado, and then ISC wanted to get a track in Aurora, so they sold Pikes Peak, and they couldn't do it in the Denver area, and then that just evaporated, and you're like, oh, okay, now that track's just sitting there.
I noticed that over like the last, I'd say 5 or 6 years, it's like everyone is all just stoked for Iowa races. Everyone was just ready to, every year I'd see all these awesome finishes, the awesome racing, and like talking to drivers, every driver that's driven there seems to say it's one of the most fun places to drive. But it's like the last couple of years, it's almost just become another race. It's kind of like it kind of mirrors on a longer term basis what has kind of happened with Eldora, whereas like Eldora is still fun to do, but compared to those first 2 or 3 years, now it's just sort of another race at this point. I think that if there was a time that you could get the fan base really excited to put Iowa on the schedule, it would have been like 2014, 15-ish. But it's like, it feels like their window has closed at this point. I mean, because people are like, oh, we should build up stands and get people in there. And it's like, well, with its limited capacity, it can't even hit half capacity for a Xfinity race. Like, I don't know. I personally would rather have like what you talked about earlier with Gateway. I think Gateway is a better option. If that place, and this is no disrespect to IndyCar, but if that place can sell out with IndyCar and have like extra people spilling out of the track almost, I think NASCAR Cup Series racing can bring in just as many, if not more.
Well, and Jarrett, what you're talking about, like with Iowa, kind of reminds me of what happened with Kentucky, and it's a lesson because there was such a push to get a race at Kentucky, Cup race at Kentucky for so long. And by the time they finally got one there, yeah, the first one was, a sellout and they couldn't even accommodate other cars. But after that, people were like, okay, whatever, I'm not going back there. I'll go once, but I'll go check it out. And that's it. So, and now look at Kentucky. Kentucky's like, who wants to go to Kentucky? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Besides 2019 with the finish there, I mean, Kentucky has just been bleh.
I think hearing you say that about Kentucky, like back then, I think the two choices was either bring Kentucky to Cup or bring Nashville to Cup, and then Nashville disappeared for 10 years. Now Nashville comes back next year. Kentucky added more grandstands long term, probably wasn't a good idea. If I'm Nashville, I say keep what they have, get those full as can be, provided COVID isn't a thing next year, and then make a decision on that.
I think that's a great point too, honestly, if you don't mind me jumping in again. Because I think that what this has shown, the whole COVID thing, is that everybody wants fans, but I don't think you need even a place that holds 60,000 fans. The drivers have been super enthused by these tracks that have like 10, 15,000 people. They can hear the fans, they can hear the energy. Eric at the All-Star race talking about how rowdy the fans were in some moments. So I think if you get a track that only holds 15,000, I mean, I go to the Chili Bowl a couple times or even Knoxville, which holds 20. Chili Bowl, I think, holds 10 or 12 or something. And that atmosphere of everybody being packed into a small area, the energy from the people who are there, it's a hot ticket. Create a demand for the ticket, create a demand for people to want to go to get tickets early, to sell out and have that energy there. I would take that over a place that's, 140,000 seats and 60,000 people show up. Yeah, you have double, triple the crowd, but I'd rather have that energy of the people there. So I think COVID has sort of changed how people might look at attendance,
Well, and we had talked about this before on the show when it comes to, when they're downsizing seating, like optics go a long way, both in person and especially on TV. Like you can make 30,000 people being packed in somewhere look as full as back in the day when like 140,000 would be at Dover. Like it looks just as full if you have the right camera angles. and it's, I guess you can look at it in two ways. In one way, it's kind of sad. Like, oh, they used to have so many back in the day, but like you said, if you can create a demand for the ticket and you have that energy built up, because I don't care what anyone says, like there's a different energy around at a race when you look around and the place is packed. Like when we were at the Bristol night race last year, looking around, we were just pumped up. We were, they were playing Thunderstruck and we were getting into it before the race. Whereas, you go to, Danny, you can probably test this more than we can, go into the Bristol race in the spring. Even when it doesn't rain delay, it's a completely different environment.
Spring of 2018 was just the saddest I've ever been inside of Bristol Motor Speedway. Just looking around, it's like
the attendance.
It's like this place is way too big. Like I was honestly in my mind, I was thinking just tear down those stands and the turns. We don't need them anymore.
And look at like for other sports. I hate comparing to other sports, but I think when it comes to having fun in attendance and the atmosphere, you can compare and contrast a little bit. Look at like baseball parks. So like Wrigley Field, for instance, place I think holds just over 30,000. That place is insane in person. You go out to the bleachers, there might be, I don't know, maybe like 8,000 at most. I don't know how many it holds. It's probably not even that much. But it's nuts out there. It's fun as hell to be there. I think you can create the same thing at a NASCAR race. You know, what was Gateway hold, like 20 or 30,000, like somewhere in there?
I think it's actually more toward like a 70-ish or something crazy, right? Am I wrong about that?
I
I'll
would
look
have
it
guessed
up
in the
real
40
quick.
to
I'll have to look
50
it up.
range, but I don't know.
I'll have to probably look it up.
But I know like Phoenix with their remodel, they went down to about 40,000, and now they've packed that place. I mean, they've been able to pack that place pretty much entirely full the last 3 years.
Yeah, good move on their end for sure.
Let's see. Yeah, 78,000.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that's weird. I've never been to Gateway, so it's really tough to picture why they have that many seats, honestly. But
I drove past it because it's like right at the outskirts of St. Louis, and it from the outside, it's like you go by it and it fits with every other sporting stadium in the St. Louis area. And if they can sell out for IndyCar, I think NASCAR should be able to bring just as much of a crowd there. Like, go for it. I mean, the optics of having a full packed house, I think nowadays is just so good, because nowadays I think with social media, pictures of, I think there's like an account called like Empty Seats Galore. Pictures of empty stadiums can go around to get made fun of and memed and stuff before someone finds out, oh yeah, the place looks empty. There's 100,000 people here at Indy, but it looks empty because of how many people they can have. So go for it, man. The better the sport looks, I think the better that it can do at drawing other people. I remember just my experience alone, and I get doesn't speak for everyone, but when I first watched NASCAR, it was the 05 Daytona 500. And part of the thing that drew me in was looking and seeing how many people were there and the excitement of the crowd and the crowd noise with it. So like I said, I'm down for it. That's my long-winded, speech.
I'd even say like last year in Michigan when I went, there were honestly a decent amount of fans. Like, I mean, when I looked across, like looked to my right or left, I saw like stands packed and stuff like that, even above me.
Yeah.
Even the weekend after the All-Star race, me, Jarrett, and Darren, we went to Fairground Speedway in Nashville. We watched the Masters of Pros 150, and that place holds 15,000, I think, its capacity at the fairgrounds, and just a social distance crowd there. Still looked like it was holding a pretty good sized crowd. And honestly, the kind of like the environment felt pretty good for what it really was.
Really quick, if we don't have anything on that, there's 2 other stories before picks that we can look into.
Cool.
So let's just start. Let's get the bad one out of the way first. There's a bad one and a good one. Levine Family Racing has sold its team and charter. This is their last year. I guess just what's the reaction to that? I saw that Bob Levine put on Twitter that he's not going to be like working in NASCAR in any way after this year, which sucks because the dude's like one of the most he's one of the most honest personalities in NASCAR. We had him on to start the season, and it was one of the most fun times talking to someone because he just doesn't hold back.
It's bittersweet, and I want to go back and rewatch our episode with him because I remember he seemed so happy and optimistic about this year starting into it. And then I saw him at Daytona, said hi to him, and he seemed like he was having such a good time, like enjoying what he had created. And who wouldn't being in that kind of situation. And I know this wasn't easy for him, and really I hate that he had to do this because I know it's gonna, knowing how he seems, how he is, like he's kind of a guy who's gonna feel bad for making people be out of work. That's just that's kind of the vibe I've gotten from him, like what little I've known him.
I do agree on that. Just because of his team was rising. I mean, think about it. He started with Scott Speed, Michael McDowell.
David Starr was on the team too.
David Starr. I mean,
it's been an interesting ride as far as who else been in there. Like even one of the Dillon brothers, even for a brief period.
And then, it's kind of starts rising a bit with Casey Kane, but then of course, he leaves early, kind of goes downhill. But then you get Matt DiBenedetto, it rises again. And, Christopher Bell, a rookie, talented rookie, keeps on rising. Then all of a sudden you get this, and it's like, oh, I know fans will probably blame also like, Gibbs and stuff like that, like kind of like what happened with Furniture Row. I think most of this though goes to, again, this whole COVID situation, the economy going down too.
There's no reason to blame Gibbs. It is ironic. There's no reason to blame Gibbs.
Yeah.
It's like he's left with two options: his actual business in Texas or his fun business in racing. And well, what is their business?
One pays for the other, so he's got to go with what brought him here.
Is it oil or is it construction?
Construction.
Okay, construction. I'm sorry, it's far more important than racing.
Yeah. No, I think
it was unfortunate. Sorry, Eric.
No, go ahead.
I think that, it was really bad timing. It wasn't just because of COVID, but so he had a decent plan. Like you saw the way that they were building over the years and they were taking gradual steps. Well, then this year he's thinking, okay, the new car's coming in 2021. That's going to change our business model because all these owners are like 2021 car is going to save everything, because not that the cars are going to be cheaper because they're going to be more expensive at first or whatever, supposedly, but just not needing as many crew guys and all that stuff. It's just going to be supposedly they're banking on a game changer. So Levine's like, all right, so if we can have one good year sort of to get us as a bridge to that, raise the value of our charter, all that stuff, have some good results. So then, obviously, as we all know, he goes with the Gibbs Alliance, which is freaking expensive, right? And to cover the Gibbs Alliance, that extra money, as much as they charge, they had to sell sponsorship. And once the pandemic hit and all these sponsors were like, oh yeah, we can't, sorry, we're not spending money right now. All of a sudden he's paying the bill for this Gibbs Alliance. And the whole plan of gradually going up, it was just a bad bet at the wrong time. You know what I mean? And so there's really no way, especially once it became evident that they're not going to run the new car next year. There's going to be these same cars again. He can't afford to do this alliance again. It was game over,
Sad situation right there.
Yeah, I think, that's basically how it looked to me is what really's been tough the last day or so is it feels like Bob Levine, if you were to ask him, what are your thoughts on NASCAR? I feel like he would only have negative things to say at the moment, which is a bit unfortunate because I believe 10 years ago when he got into the sport, kind of as just a fan who had the money and was able to get the resources to go racing, I feel like he was extremely optimistic and really excited about it. So I think that's the most dejecting part, reading some of his quotes and kind of seeing how this whole thing fell apart. Yeah, I don't think it's not the same as the Furniture Row deal where, losing a sponsor combined with Gibbs seemingly actively rising the cost of their alliance. This is a case where, like you said, Jeff, it's expensive to work with Gibbs. It's expensive to be competitive in the Cup Series, and unfortunately, with sponsors backing out and everything going on in the world, kind of beyond his control, it was really just a perfect storm, unfortunately, in all the wrong ways. So I'm bummed because it's another competitive team that's gone, another competitive ride that at least for next year will likely not exist. I mean, we know the charter's been sold. We don't know exactly what's going to become of that, but it's I don't know. That's what's really tough about it. But I don't know. Fans will form their own conclusions on that one.
My question is now: does this open up a chance for maybe a Gaunt Brothers Racing to come into that alliance area?
I don't know.
I think Toyota or JGR, they're gonna have to get a more established team because it just seems hard to go to a team that hasn't had the success yet and have them build up and expect them to run well. It's going to take some more time. That I think Toyota needs to go after somebody who is already, somewhat established. I'm not saying a powerhouse team, but at least somewhat decent already. Gaunt Brothers just so far behind at this point, it seems like.
Yeah.
So basically, you say no money team, nothing like that.
The money team until they show up, I'll believe it when I see it.
What? Yeah. What happened to that team? Is it like still going on?
I got to talk to some of them at Daytona this year, like some of the people like on their team, and even then it was like, oh, we're looking towards the end of the year, but then
Everything's
there's nothing.
I guess
I don't think they're coming this year.
I guess
No.
take your time. You come when you feel like it.
Floyd
This
Mayweather.
is honestly the worst time possible to start a team, though, because
Mm-hmm.
you've got to. I mean, you would want to come in when the new car is coming in. You wouldn't want to come in and then have to do this whole inventory of cars, and then for just a year, that just makes no sense. So I don't know how much they know about racing.
Floyd Mayweather. I don't know if Floyd Mayweather really knows much about racing. Maybe he's watched some races. Who knows? But I don't know if he's like, you know.
I mean, I've watched races too. It doesn't mean I know how to run a team.
Which that's kind of one of those things where I feel like if and when they do show up, it'd be like, yeah, Floyd's name is attached to it, just like Matt Collick. He owns the Lee Filter Company, owns Collick Racing, but I always see more from Chris Rice, who seems like he's kind of like the brainchild there. But I see Collick doing a lot, but I also see Chris Rice doing a lot. So it could be one of those kind of
Yeah,
deals
not
too.
to derail it, but I think it was said that like Floyd Mayweather is not necessarily going to be involved in the team. They just like paid the money like to license his name and brand. I don't even know if Floyd Mayweather's seen
that's about all that he needs.
Yeah, I don't know. Anyway, we'll get it if that ever shows up. Yeah, we can do a whole episode on the money team.
Yeah.
What do we have one more topic, Jarrett, to get into?
Yes.
What's last on the agenda?
Brad Keselowski has signed a 1-year extension with Team Penske, and I'll just be straight up and say it. I think this is like what we're going to be seeing for the foreseeable future with a lot of drivers is short deals, just because the future right now is so uncertain, and especially with that. I think this is going to be one of the biggest things that comes out of COVID. Like we see the big things, like changes to the weekend and different teams not being able to make it out of it. But I think this is one thing that a lot of people are going to sort of overlook that COVID has brought along is with this uncertainty. I think you're going to see a lot of 1 or 2 year deals with drivers. I think for most, the days of 3, 4, 5 year deals being the norm, I think is done for a while.
Dunzo.
Yeah, because like you look at Casey Kane, for example, had long time deals with Hendrick, but the next thing you know, he's running a HendrickCars.com car because, well, where's the sponsor?
Even Dale Jr. had that problem.
Yeah.
And what was it when Roush had Carl Edwards? They ran the what was it, Ford car, wasn't it? It was just Ford.
Well, even then, they still had some of their drivers just running a straight up car that says Roush on it. So
Yeah, Jeff Byrne had an unsponsored car back in like 04 or something like that. All it said was like SKF and like
that whole ordeal is kind of what led into Carl Edwards even coming to Cup in the first place.
Yeah, and we talked to Mark Martin a few weeks ago about that, and he was even saying that like he basically said that was not surprising to him and stuff. But that's a whole nother conversation. But Jeff, what do you think? Am I just completely like off base here, or is it like?
I think it's a combination. I think you're onto something in general for especially like the lower tier guys or like the unproven guys. I don't know in Brad's situation. I think to attract a big name driver, you could still throw out a nice deal, a multi-year deal. But it seems like in Brad's case, at the beginning of the year, the last normal race weekend we ever had, Phoenix. I mean, we're like, hey, Blaney just signed. They announced Blaney at that Phoenix race weekend. So we're all asking Brad, hey, what's your status? And he's like, oh, I've been so busy with the new baby in the off season, haven't talked to them about it. And then he goes, I'm not calling out, but if somebody's going to be calling in, I'll listen. And it just seemed like everything was pointing to like Brad wanted to shop around. Like, I think he sort of had his eye maybe on the 48. And he could see like, hey, I'm a big free agent. This is a big free agent year. There's going to be a lot of rides available. A lot of people possibly coming after me with some big money. And this is an opportunity to really cash in sort of on a big deal. He's got a side business now, or it's pretty big business that he's trying to do with the advanced manufacturing thing. I think COVID happens and it's like, okay, well, he's not going to get a big money deal. Not going to get the 48. And then he goes back to Penske and he's like, hey,
I'm
and
back.
they're, at the same time, they're like, hey, because they don't, I don't know if they know what they can really do. I don't think they want to go out and throw a bunch of money at some new driver right now. So I think for both of them, I could be wrong and just reading this the wrong way, but it just seemed like, hey, let's do a 1-year deal. Let's see how things go. Let's reevaluate. And I think it gives both them options for going forward in the future. Neither of them are locking themselves in. For Brad, I still think he would love to get that big money deal out there. I don't think he's like, hey, I want to stay at Penske for the rest of my career necessarily. I don't hear that from him anyway. So, we'll see if the landscape changes. And next year, of course, there's going to be not as many rides open, high profile rides you would think. This was supposed to be the big year, but I'm sure there'll be enough open that he'll still have options, and we'll probably be in the same situation a year from now.
I thought it'd be funny if Brad went to the 48 just because that's kind of where he started off was with Hendrick, and then they kind of said, "Oh, well, you're not going to get a ride here."
Yeah.
And then went to Penske. So
Yeah, I had to step away for a second there, but did anyone talk about now who is the potential favorite for the 48 car, or is this a completely new topic we're jumping into?
We can. It's in the vein.
While we have Jeff here, and I know Jeff, you have your pulse on the nation of everything that's going on in and around the NASCAR garage. I mean, you're not in the garage, I guess, these days, but still. Anyway, who would your pick be for the 48 car right now that Keselowski has landed somewhere?
Well, I guess it depends on which scenario you believe is out there, right? Like, there's the one scenario that I think like Lee Spencer wrote about, that people are definitely seem to be talking about where, okay, maybe they just shift Bowman to the 48 and then see if they can get something for the 88. And if not, I don't know what happens to the 88.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I've heard more people than just Lee Spencer say that, but at the same time, I don't know how many legs that really has. And then, so if you go with the standard line of thinking, which we all thought at the beginning of the year, which was, okay, marquee seat, marquee free agent. Okay, well, obviously you're not going to go get Larson at this point. You didn't get Keselowski. Blaney's off the table. The one guy that's out there that would seem to be like sort of a decent fit could be Eric Jones. I mean, I know Bubba was sort of floated there, but especially if now JGR is like, hey, we really want to get Bell in-house because he doesn't have a place at the 95 anymore. We can't let Bell go. We don't really have another place to put him. Jones is kind of struggling. Maybe they just go their separate ways. Well, then maybe if you're Hendrick, you go, hey, Eric Jones, we can get Eric Jones at a discount. I'm pretty sure Eric Jones is younger than Bell. He really has youth on his side. He's proven he can win. Yeah, he's having a disappointing year, but I mean, his level of experience for his age and his talent, it's a pretty good deal. So if you could get him for that ride and, if it's a decent landing spot for him, I mean, that could be a good solution for everybody, really.
Yeah,
it's going to be able to. Oh, go ahead, Eric.
It seemed weird to me at first. From my perspective, I could see why Eric Jones would maybe want to go to the 48 car, especially because they haven't had much success in the 20. I think, in theory, a Joe Gibbs car is better than a Hendrick car right now, but that whole 20 team just seems so inconsistent, so out of tune with each other. So a change of scenery might be best. But I guess I look at it from Rick Hendrick's perspective. I guess Eric Jones is cheap. I mean, that's the kind of the same reason Jones is in the 20 car to begin with, is he was cheaper than the alternative at the time. But it just seems, I guess it's a far cry for me from, just think back to heck, even 2017 when you had, I guess you didn't have Jeff Gordon, 2015 when you had Jeff Gordon, Jimmy Johnson, Casey Kane, and Dale Earnhardt Jr. at Hendrick Motorsports, and you replace those are arguably at the time the four most popular drivers in NASCAR. You replace them with Chase, who sure is a big name and a big icon in the sport. Alex Bowman, William Byron, Eric Jones. Honestly, if I take my glasses off, they all look like the exact same person, and I don't think any one of them has had exceptional success in any of their rides at this point. It just seems like an interesting. I don't know that that's setting Hendrick Motorsports up for long-term success, in my opinion. It just feels like it feels like Roush in 2017 with Stenhouse and Trevor Bayne, except twice as big and more talented, sure, than Ricky Stenhouse and Trevor Bayne, but it's just not the same Hendrick Motorsports that existed even 3 or 4 years ago, and it just seems so different to me. That pairing seems mind-blowing to me. Eric Jones and Rick Hendrick. I don't know.
Really quick, some people in the chat have been having problems. I've noticed it on my screen. Just for people who can still see it, because there's still over 400 watching, just let people know to refresh the stream, and that pretty much fixes most of it. It's just some people, it's just going black and then stopping for them, but the stream is still up and going.
On the subject of what's going to happen to the 48 car, I'm going to run up this. I'm not going on a tangent here. I don't think anybody is the answer. And what I mean by this is the fact that we saw some tweets come out from Jimmy Johnson with Blake Shelton, him talking about a semi-retirement kind of deal. Well, if Ally wants to sponsor a Hendrick car for 36 races, reduce down to if you go and replace someone in a 48 and Jimmy wants to run some more races, it only gives him 5 opportunities he can do with Hendrick, because then they can only run a 5th car for 5 races. If you go down to 3 teams, you can either put Bowman in the 48 and run with Ally, or bring over the Ally funding over to the 88 for let's say 20 races with the 88. And let's say Jimmy wants to run 16, because the majority of this season he's ran in front of no fans at all. So let's say he wants to pick 16 races to be a semi-retirement year, and there's Ally for 16 races. With Jimmy, there's Ally for 20 races of Bowman, and this year his sponsorship lineup was, I think it was 2 with Cincinnati, 2 with Lumar, 3 with Exalta, and 2 with Valvoline. That would be 9. So that's 20 plus 9. That's 29. So then we still got probably got 7 more races to fill. If you can get Chevy Goods back for that many, if you can get some of the other ones to step up, or if you can change some things up with the Ally deal, I think there's room there to do something like that with the Ally funding.
The problem is, it's like, what do you do with the rest of those races? Because if the charter agreement is so restrictive that you have to run every race to keep your charter. So you just run it with some money driver who brings funding, which is weird for Hendrick. I don't think you can run a 5th car, even with the charter thing, even with a non-chartered car. I don't think anymore. I think they changed it. So it's just that I think, everybody wanted this charter system, but now it sort of locks you into like a situation like you're talking about would make sense. But then it's like, well, what do you do with the rest of that season? You're like, I think, didn't we see at Bristol, some of those like backmarker teams that had charters had to show up to run the Open, even though they weren't even going to contend. You know what I mean? Like the Rick Ware cars,
Yeah.
It was just a waste of money for them, but they were required to go. So
yeah,
that's just part of it,
I guess I'm still thinking the mentality. I guess the charter system really destroys the past champion provision, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah, I forgot about that.
So I noticed a few people are still talking about it just in the chat, but I saw a few people talking about it, the reason for this, just popping in and out. It's been doing this to streams all day. So when it saves the playback, the whole stream will be there. So for anyone who's having problems with that, I guess take solace in that. But if you guys want, we can probably head to picks, just so
sure thing.
People.
Really quick, I want to shout out all the super chats we've gotten here in the last hour. I'm not going to go through every single question and answer, but thank you, Jake Stew, I believe. I appreciate the super chat from Jake. We also got another one from Chris Cahill. His pick is Chase Elliott for the Daytona Road Course. Appreciate that. GN, thank you for the super chat. Always great to get support from him. He mentions it's been 2 years since Chase Elliott's first win in the Brian France ordeal. Oh yeah, don't remind us. It's time flies. Mr. Antiant, always good to see you. Says he still doesn't have any power in Long Island, New York. Well, hopefully he gets that worked on. Yeah.
Spots everyone up there, they got hit pretty hard.
Yeah, my goodness. Then Trey Haynes, thank you for the big super chat. Really appreciate that. He just says, "Take my money." All right, we will. Thank you.
My
money.
And then just a moment ago from Sam I Am, his pick is for Bubba Wallace to either go to the 42 or for Richard Petty to switch to Toyota. I don't know. Could you guys see that happening? I don't know about that. Yeah, that's.
I don't see that happening.
They just got a Chevy back 3 years ago. I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't see them going to, especially with Toyota expensive. Nah.
Yeah, that seems.
I mean, maybe when we go to new gen car, they might change something, but not right now.
You never know. Well, we've hit the top of the hour, so yes, Jarrett, we should get to picks and get rolling and then get out of here.
So, I mean, yeah, because we got that and then a big announcement for our guests next week. But
yeah.
since it's the Michigan doubleheader, I say let's just do a double pick for each for the suck, dark horse, and win. Let's just double it all up.
Oh gosh, I've given this no thought. So we do both at the same time, like my suck pick for both weight races or something.
Yeah, just to give 2 suck picks, I guess.
All right, I'll start because I'm the one talking here. I'll go. I think William Byron has a rough first race, which is going to be unusual because I feel like they're usually good at the big fast tracks. And then I'll say Boyer. He's been kind of the 4th fastest SHR car for the last few weeks. So I'll go. The 2 of them have bad weekends.
Let's see here. I'm suck picks. I'm gonna have to say Eric Jones again. I feel like, you know, he's gonna struggle on Michigan. I feel like it's gonna be another bad race. And for my second one, that's tough, but I'm also gonna say it might have to possibly be Jimmy Johnson again, just because of the bad luck that's been going on. I hope I'm wrong, but I'm just saying, might happen.
I'm going to say Clint Boyer struggles in the first one, does better in the second one, and then the second one, Jimmy Johnson runs into some bad luck.
I'm going to go Brad Keselowski because he's actually had some troubles here, even though it's his home track. And I'm going to go Kyle Busch. I think when it rains, it pours, and I think it's going to for Kyle Busch.
Ooh.
Yeah, I don't know if you want me to make picks or not, but I would say Clint Boyer is going to have a bad first race, and Kyle Busch is going to have some bad luck once again and have a memorable quote that may end up on a T-shirt.
He's been on a roll with those lately. Cool. All right, so we'll go into our underdog picks, our dark horses for the 2 races. Again, I'll start. I'll go Matt Benedetto for the first race. They've showed some speed lately. I think this might be his best chance of getting a win. Where did he ran second? No, he didn't run second at Auto Club this year. That was Vegas. He ran second. But I still expect a good day for him at Michigan. And then I'll throw in Christopher Bell. I think with all the news this week, that team, it would really mean a lot to them for them to go out there and just run top 5 or something like that. So I'll give Christopher Bell the edge on Sunday.
I'm going to say for underdog pick, first race, Tyler Reddick. He's going to be, I think, a big underdog. He's going to catch people by surprise. He's been doing it all year. And for the second one, you know, I'm probably honestly going to have to go maybe Clint Boyer. I think he might actually shock someone this week. You know, it could happen.
I'm going to say Tyler Reddick for the first one as underdog. And then for the second one, Eric Almirola will be my underdog.
Nice. I'm going to go RCR across the board. I think RCR has been getting better at the intermediates, and I think that this week they won't exactly be running for a win. But maybe if there's some roll of the dice like Texas, maybe they'll be in position. But I think they could be a top 10, top 15 team.
I like the Almirola pick because I think the SHR cars are going to be fast overall. And then I think that this is the kind of track where Reddick could potentially make a difference. So I will go with Reddick for the second one.
All right, cool. So then we move on to who is going to win.
Win if they're in.
Yeah.
Darian's not here, so we're not going to say it like that. No, I'll go with. I agree. I think the SHR cars are going to be fast. I'll go boring for the first race. I think Harvick wins. But I'll go a little more exciting for the second race. I think Eric Almirola finally gets his first win of the season. So I'll go. I mean, I could have made him an underdog pick, but I think he's actually going to win the race. So I'll put him as my winner for Sunday.
I like that one. Yeah, I think Kevin Harvick, won here last year around the same time race I went to. He really had a great car all day long. Couldn't stop him. And second race, I'd honestly say I think Martin Truex Jr. is probably going to go victory lane. I just feel like, he's been quiet. Yeah, he only has a win. But I feel like him and his crew chief now, I think the chemistry's there. I think they're going to, not dominate, but I do think they are going to be a top 5 car and get the win by the end of this thing.
All right, for race 1, if they can unload this kind of unholy, amazing, where'd that come from speed that they had in Auto Club, I'll give up the first win to Alex Bowman, and then the second one I will say Kevin Harvick.
I just love the
Alex
meme.
Bowman.
The meme, like baby, the meme. I love it.
It's a very similar track. I'll give it that.
Yeah, no, I give you good argument for this one.
Yeah,
this one makes sense.
I am gonna go boring as well with Kevin Harvick, but I think Ryan Blaney will be my second pick. So I'm going Ryan Blaney. I think that, similar track to Auto Club, he was really fast there. He's the only person that was in Bowman's league in that race for the most part. So I think that he can get it done.
I mean, for me, this is incredibly boring, but yeah, I think Harvick's going to sweep the weekend. I would rather be right and boring than go out on a limb and be wrong. So I'll just say Harvick.
It's not a
Play
bad
it
All
safe.
of us.
Harvick.
All of us picked Harvick in at least one of the races. Jesus.
What if Harvick crashes out both of them? We probably jinxed them already.
We just
People
delete
will
this
probably
podcast
rejoice.
episode. Nobody will ever find it again.
I'll take the interesting storyline because I'm going to Michigan. It's going to be my first race back since the pandemic started. I haven't been since March 8th at Phoenix. So I'm like, this is like almost like my Daytona 500. So I want interesting things to talk about. So if it's not a Harvick Hamlin thing, that's fine.
Yeah, there you go.
I'm down with
Win-win
that.
in this case
Sure.
for you. All right, so is that going to do it, Jared? Have we hit on everything that was on the docket for tonight?
I think so.
Check the notebook paper. Yeah,
checking
both
the
sides. Check the
Yes.
margins. Make sure there's nothing. in
Yep,
the...
we're good.
All right.
I think, after letting our guests tell everyone where they can, where our audience can find them, we can talk about the guest for next week, who's going to be on. I'll say the first one, but I want Danny to announce the last one since it's on his channel.
Yeah, but a big thank you to both you, Ian. This is your first time on the show. Where you at? You're on this side of me. There you go.
Yeah, I think I'm on your opposite side.
Yeah.
It shows me on the left side.
So where can people find you after tonight's show?
Well, I do have Instagram, OB O'Brien 41. 41 was my number when I played football, so that's why I have it there. My Twitter, I think it's just Ian OB O'Brien because everyone wanted to pick Ian O'Brien, my basic name, for whatever reason.
Yeah, we got that in the description.
Yeah, people stealing my stuff now. And of course, I do have a Snapchat. I mean, if anyone wants to just get my streaks going, come on, get my streaks going. It's Ian the Kicker 41. So there you go.
There you go. Awesome. And of course,
Or
Jeff.
Obi the Kicker 41, yeah.
Jeff, we've got your Twitter in the description as well. But is there anything else that you'd like to shout out?
No, I appreciate you guys having me. I definitely want to keep the tradition up. So please invite me again sometime. I think you guys, it's been really fascinating to watch this rise. Cause I think the first episode that I came on like a couple years ago, we were talking about, NASCAR world should pay more attention to the YouTube community. It was, at the time, it didn't seem like it was getting much love. And, now there's been some credentials given out and stuff like that. Still should be more, of course. Now we're not even in the garage of the track, but
Exactly.
once post-COVID happens, it seems like, you guys are talking to Steve Phelps on here, you're talking to Hall of Famers on here. So it's pretty cool. It seems like the rise of YouTube, this community is continued to impress. So just see where it goes,
On that note, this might actually be a good chance for me to say this, if you don't mind, Eric. Me and Eric actually made an appearance on Backseat Drivers this week. So there's a plug right there.
I believe the video's up now on NASCAR's official YouTube channel, if I'm not
It is.
mistaken. So everyone go check that out after the show. But yeah, we appreciate that, Jeff. You've been a kind of a supporter of the community, if you will, for longer than most. So we're all just a bunch of guys here that like talking about racing, and it's pretty remarkable that so many other people resonate with it, and it's grown to what it is. But yeah, you're always welcome on the show. We really appreciate you coming on.
No, thank you guys. And I think that too, not to blow smoke up your asses here, but the thing that sets you guys apart is your knowledge of the sport. You know every single thing that's happening, all the ins and outs. There's no topic that's too in the weeds for you guys. So I think that really, it's not just like you guys are just some average, casual fans and you just threw up a YouTube channel and started talking about it. Like you bring insight. And I think that's the same thing that the media does. It's just that the media, most of them are, getting paid by some outlet. You guys have, are bringing the same level of knowledge just without the access in a lot of cases. So, I think if you keep doing what you're doing, the access will come because that knowledge will be rewarded by the people who make those kind of decisions. So just keep doing what you're doing is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, we appreciate it.
Thank you.
was a great show tonight. But yeah, before we go, I guess Jarrett, Danny, we have to talk about who's on next week. Pretty exciting stuff.
Yep, let Jarrett do the first one, and it'll be on my channel, by the way.
So our first guest next week is going to be someone who's pretty interesting, is Derek Griffith. So be sure to watch for him. But I want Danny. I want to hear Danny. I want to hear Danny announce our next
Let's
guest.
see. I think there's something around here.
There's a sketch involved. I didn't know this.
no.
Yeah, I didn't know this either.
Could it possibly be the man who drives this
Really?
number?
Dale Jr.?
Wow, Dale
No way.
Yes. No, Alex Bowman. Tentatively, Alex Bowman is supposed to be on with us next week, so we're really excited to have Alex on board with us. Everyone knows I'm when Dale Jr. retired, I chose a favorite. It was Alex Bowman. Haven't regretted it since. So I'm happy to have Alex Bowman on our show next week.
Talented driver for sure. I think that's going to be a great talk with you guys. Danny, are you going to fan out, or are you going to have?
I mean, I've met Alex a few times. I mean, it's nothing really good. It'll be the first time I really get to like talk with him, so that's kind of cool.
It's all business. No, but that's exciting. So yes, we'll be on Danny B's channel same time next week. Again, big thank you, Ian, for being on, Jeff for being on, Robby Lyons at the beginning for being on as well. Thank you everyone for tuning in tonight. We always appreciate the support. And with that being said, we'll see you all next week.
I guess I want to thank you guys for having me on. You know, it's never thought I'd be the day where I'd be on cats who have like a good number of subs, thousands of subs over here on a podcast with them. So I want to give also a big shout out to Darian, because I had him on a podcast and he basically hooked me up here with you guys too.
Yeah,
there's big stuff there for sure. And I hope to definitely be on the future. You know, you guys are bringing NASCAR to the top again, and I love that. You know, I mean, you guys are like the new race hubs and stuff like that. It's really good.
All right.
We appreciate it for sure.
Not trying to cut anyone off here. Jeff, Ian, you may want to take out your earphones for this.
They'll call.
Oh my gosh.
Oh man.